Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. It is Tuesday, June 24th, and pre-markets are green. They are really green based on the news that we got last night. If you did not see some of the news that we got last night, it has carried into this morning. Folks, we got a ceasefire. We have a ceasefire. President Trump announced last night that Israel and Iran will be engaging in a ceasefire. Futures immediately shot up green last night. Now, the actuality of if this ceasefire is going to be respected, we're going to see, because already over the past 12 hours, there's been some inconsistencies in terms of the ability for the ceasefire to meaningfully be in place. But, and we'll talk about some of that, the market is interpreting this as relatively bullish, because if we do have a ceasefire, then we've got a bit more peace in the Middle East. This is what Trump tweeted last night. Congrats to everyone. It has been a fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours from now. That was last night. Officially, Iran will start the ceasefire, and upon the 12th hour, Israel will start the ceasefire, and upon the 24th hour, an official end to the 12-day war, which is what Trump is calling this, will be saluted by the world. This is a war that could have gone on for years and destroyed the entire Middle East, but it didn't and never will. So he tweeted that last night. Market was pretty excited for it. And if we look right now in the pre-markets, you got some green. Robinhood 78 up 2%. Palantir 141 up 1%. Tessie 355 up 2%. Nvidia 145 up 1%. Even HIMS, which is still getting hit pretty hard from yesterday, up about 1.6%. You got Google at 167. Grab right here up about 1.5%, 463. Amazon's up. Reddit's up. Meta's up. The entire S&P is up. The market, S&P above 6,000, is basically saying, okay, so Trump got a bunch of political capital from getting rid of Iran's nuclear facilities. He then got Iran to attack symbolically, which really didn't do any damage to American bases. And then he got them to give us a ceasefire. It's hard for the market to say this is not the most bullish thing for just the future of how we could conceptualize where the world is going to go from here in regards to geopolitics. But as of now, that's what the market is saying. Having said that, there were some things that happened over the past 24 hours or 12 hours that got Trump to be upset. And to show that, I want to just play this clip because there were some mentions that Israel was potentially violating their ceasefire along with Iran as well. Here's what Trump had to say this morning. He was a bit pissed off, but here's ultimately what he had to say.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too. Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
I haven't heard Trump curse in a while. You could tell he was pissed. Now, he said that the ceasefire is still in place, but he was pretty mad over the past 12 hours that both countries were potentially violating the agreed upon ceasefire. Vlad's on CNBC. We'll talk more about this after we get through that. I didn't know Vlad would be on CNBC today, but here we go. Let's see Vlad on CNBC.
CEO Vlad Tenev right here on the set ahead of the company's annual shareholder meeting taking place this week. Also want to ask you about this bill that's going through Washington right now, which could help you, by the way, beyond the Genius Act that's taking place.
Good to see you guys.
It's good to see you. Before we even get into it, what is the retail audience, if you will, doing in the midst of all of the action in the Middle East right now?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I was a little bit surprised that over the weekend, when all of this was happening, the markets didn't move so much in the overnight. Right. I don't know if you guys were surprised by that, but I feel like if this had happened a year or 2 years ago, we would have had a huge move. But markets were flat to even a little bit up. And if we look at retail has pretty much continued to buy the names that they were buying previously.
Right.
So heavy in the AI space with companies like Nvidia, Tesla, electric vehicles, big in crypto and fintech related companies. So it's very much long innovation. Some companies like Palantir, obviously in the defense space, continue to be retail favorites, but that was always the case. That's been the case for many, many years. So I would interpret it as retail is sort of moving on ahead, investing.
How much of the retail community on Robinhood are basically all in on sort of 10 major stocks? I mean, or is it much more dispersed than that?
It's pretty dispersed. I mean, I think you can look at the breakdown. We publish some stats about the top stocks on the platform. It's more than 10. Obviously, you look at the top ones, Tesla, Nvidia, those
Palantir. That's why I was just thinking just how much of the action is focused in one place.
But new ones come in all the time. I mean, there's been a lot of interest in Circle, as you can imagine. I think that HIMS had a big move yesterday. That always, when you have a big move like that around news, you always have retail and institutional jumping in. So I wouldn't say it's just the top 10. There's new things coming in all the time. And now we have futures trading. So we did see some heightened activity around crude oil, but also that the futures traders have always been trading that. So I would say broad-based equities and crypto, it's pretty similar to how it was last week. High volumes, but no huge shifts as a result of the conflict.
Talking about crypto, we had a report this morning on the framework of this market structure bill, which I don't know, I imagine you've been focused on, I don't know. And some investors really see this as even more significant than the Genius Act, I think, in part because it would allow exchanges like yourself to register with the CFTC, which would then reduce, I imagine, SEC oversight over digital currencies. Is that the way you see it?
I think it's a big thing because if you look at crypto right now, over the past 4 years, the really interesting high potential things in crypto have all been pushed overseas. So we're actually doing an event next week in the south of France, our first big crypto event, our first big international event. And one of the messages is Europe's actually ahead of the US at this point. So it's rare that America has to catch up in a frontier innovation industry, but here we are. So I think these bills provide much needed clarity for builders to actually bring back a lot of that innovation in the US, make it available in our home market.
When you think, though, about sort of the next stage of all the crypto stuff, where do you see you playing in this versus the Coinbases of the world? I'm just sort of curious how you think about yourself versus crypto. Do you think long term it's going to be exchanges like yours, or it's going to be these sort of crypto-only exchanges where most of the crypto action takes place?
I do think that crypto itself, there's two ways to look at it. One is a tradable asset like options, futures, and equities. The other is as a fundamental underlying technology. And in the second lens, it's the next stage in evolution. We've gone from, paper and pencil, filing cabinet-based financial services to mainframe to on-premise, and then more recently cloud. Now, crypto is the next stage in that, where a lot of the business logic that we've required businesses to actually build is now shared infrastructure. So exchanges, lending pools, payment processors, all these things are replaced by software. So I think in the future, crypto technology will power trading and all sorts of financial services, including trading in stocks and other TradFi assets. So the two will fully merge. And I think Robinhood will play a big role in that because we're actually one of the few, maybe the only, that has a very high-scale crypto business and a high-scale traditional financial services business.
Okay, the other big issue is the world of Kalshi and the world of poly market. And I'm curious, and by the way, also the world of sports betting.
Yeah.
And where you think Robinhood in the end plays in all of that? Meaning, do you think it's exchanges that will be the leaders in that realm, or do you think that this will take place in these other betting realms?
Yeah, I do think exchanges will play a role. I mean, if you look at our offering. So we launched prediction markets last fall with the presidential election. And we did that in partnership with ForecastX, which is Interactive Brokers' subsidiary contract market. And then more recently, we've been expanding. We do all sorts of economic indicators, inflation, CPI, gas prices, and sports. And that's been in partnership with Kalshi. So I think our role in this market is retail distribution. We've got close to 26 million customer accounts just in the US that are interested in this stuff and are in the target demographic. So I think distribution is going to be very important. Exchange infrastructure is obviously important to make the market happen as well.
Now, you were at $10 not so long ago. You're almost a $60 billion company now. Are you bullish on?
I thought a little bit higher than that. If I checked,
I got 60 on. So it's how many shares outstanding? If you're at 77, 78, are you more?
Now
than
you're
60?
asking me math questions. You know, I'm not much of a math guy, as you know.
The machine here says based on the outstanding shares, 767,000 outstanding shares times 77. There might be some options that aren't included. But so what do you think the market cap is, about 70, 60, 70, or?
I think, yeah.
Okay.
I think your point is
my point is that
is well taken.
With AI and with, I don't know, I see some of the excesses in the last 5 years, some of the woke stuff, some of the DEI stuff, some of the anti-business stuff. It just seems with AI like you're on the cusp of, I think it's going to be maybe a great prosperous time to be in your business. And I'm wondering if you feel the same way. I mean,
We're
are you
certainly investing a lot.
I mean, are you bullish on the stock market?
Incredibly. I think that there's so many long-term tailwinds for the stock market.
Globally, just even what's happening now in the Middle East.
Well, you look at AI. I think AI is very bullish for the stock market over the long run. I don't know if you guys saw this Invest America initiative. We were at the White House, and it's included in the big beautiful bill. But this is basically one of the few things in there that both parties generally are supportive of. And that'll fund every child born in this country $1,000 in the stock market.
We're going to have to go, but I have one last question. SPACs, they're back. Good or bad?
I'm in favor of new innovation for getting companies public. I think too few companies are public, but I think there's a deeper problem. I think it's just still too difficult, and new solutions are needed.
In terms of the model?
Yeah.
Okay, more to come. Vlad, thank you for coming in this morning. It's great to see you.
Thank you, guys.
You bet. We're coming right back.
All right, there was Vlad this morning. There he goes, dude. Some of these questions, bro, they're just like some of these questions. The last question, are you bullish on the stock market? It's like, well, the entire company is based on trading in the stock market. So I would imagine he would say yes. But yeah, I think, look, that was a good interview. I think even that last question, if they had more time, Vlad probably would have went into it. SPACs are not the answer to people getting access to, yeah, exactly what Arnie said right there. SPACs are not the answer to getting access to startups. When Vlad says we need to have new innovative ways for people to access capital, it's tokenization, right? It's if you're a startup, instead of going public and going through some type of SMAC merger with Chamath, what if you could just offer your tokens to retail, and then they can choose if they want to buy it or not. But like, that's a better way than like going public through a SPAC and then merging with a blank check company and going through that whole process, because historically that just hasn't worked out. But tokenization might be the way this plays out. So Robinhood's going to have an event on June 30th. It'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern. I'll be streaming it live, and we're going to kind of see what they announce. We talked about it last night with Tanner and Roy, but staking, obviously tokenization, crypto lending, stablecoin. There's a lot of different things they could introduce, and I think it would be very, very exciting for this company. It really does feel like she wants to get to $80. She's been hovering around 75 to 79 for the past couple of weeks. Quite frankly, the S&P inclusion hype, where we really ran from 65 to 75, that had nothing to do with getting into the S&P. And if it did, those people are still into the story because they want to be here for the long term. The option flow on Robinhood is also crazy. The $85 September 19th call picked up lots and lots of premium over the past couple of weeks. So you do have people that are betting pretty heavily that this thing will be above $85 by then. And so from that perspective, as long as they crush this event, which I think they will, it'll only diversify the prospects of their business further. They have mortgages now. That's another form of diversification. You can imagine the Active Trader Summit in October when they do that. Again, this year is going to have new tools for active traders that's only going to continue to diversify. I mean, what's next? Auto loans, insurance. I mean, there's so many different ways they can approach this, and they don't have to have any loans on the balance sheet. They don't have to actually issue the loans. They can just be a service provider that gets paid off referrals. There's a lot of momentum that is coming in the future for Robinhood. And I think, quite frankly, what really matters is you can trust Vlad. And I know a lot of people still hate him from GameStop. That's fine. But I think given what he's been able to do for the company and the market cap, he told Joe to put some respect on the market cap. You can trust that this guy understands how to really build a company, and he is very, very motivated to only continue building. So there you go. That's what we got in the context of Robinhood. Now let's go to this point on Israel, Iran. So for those that are just joining, I just want to play this video again because we were talking about it before Vlad came on CNBC. We have a ceasefire, but there were some violations of the ceasefire overnight with rockets going from both sides. Trump was pretty pissed off about it. Here's what he said this morning.
You have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because the one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Trump doesn't curse, bro. You could say a lot of things about Trump, but he doesn't curse. He doesn't curse. So the fact that he had to curse right there and say they don't know what the F they're doing, I mean, to me, you could tell he was genuinely upset. He was genuinely upset. Why? Because he wants the credit for getting a ceasefire. I mean, because think about this logically. Let's just try to analyze this from a game theory perspective, and then we'll get into the market perspective of this. Trump wants an Iran nuclear deal for 2 months. Doesn't get it. Iran keeps the U.S. waiting. Trump gets some type of intelligence from the Israelis or from the CIA that says they are very close to a nuclear weapon. He then attacks their facilities, pushing back years of progress, and then Iran retaliates with a symbolic attack. Trump tweeted yesterday right here, Iran has officially responded to our obliteration of their nuclear facilities with a very weak response, which we expected and we have effectively countered. He then says, most importantly, they've gotten it, quote unquote, all out of their system. I mean, this is hilarious. They've gotten it all out of their system. This is like, he says, I am pleased to report that no Americans were harmed. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost. Literally, the president of the United States is thanking Iran for attacking us, but letting us know they were going to attack us so that they could plan and orchestrate the attack so that no Americans would be hurt. And then Iran's happy that they got to do this attack and made sure, they didn't attack any Americans or kill any Americans, because then they really would have had to deal with some issues, because their state media is going to try to manipulate their citizens and say, look, the United States came after us, but we got them back. We're still super strong. I mean, it's an absolute joke. It's literally an orchestration of a show of egos going back and forth. But nonetheless, that should have been the end of it. And that's basically what Trump tweeted yesterday, which is, all right, we're done. Now we can encourage peace in the Middle East. And then after that, he says, officially, we have a ceasefire. So he's going to get his nuclear deal eventually with Iran when it comes to diplomacy, because now they have no choice but to engage in diplomacy. Also, a senior Iranian official yesterday said, we are ready for diplomacy. He got rid of their nuclear facilities, or at least meaningfully pushed back progress. So that's another win. And then number 3, if we do have a ceasefire that lasts, and again, based on what happened over the past couple of hours, some rockets were still exchanged back and forth. So that's why he's pissed off. But if now we are officially in a ceasefire, how is this not one of the biggest Trump wins of his second term? I mean, to me, just objectively, this is a Trump win. He gets to push back Iranian progress on nuclear weapons, potentially gets to get them into a deal diplomatically. And we'll see over the coming weeks if we end up signing a deal and we lift some sanctions and we start trading with them. And then 3, he gets a ceasefire. I mean, again, all these things we have to see if they continue to play out. But if we do end up getting a ceasefire, this is a win, bro. It's objectively, this is a win. And then if he gets his July 4th big, beautiful bill passed and he gets all the pro-business stuff that he wants, even if that might increase the deficit, that's kind of the bear case of it. But if he gets that passed as well, I think this is something that ends up being a win for Trump. And I think this is kind of just objectively analyzing it. Like, I don't know what the implications of everything that has happened over the past couple of weeks are going to be, but if it ends up being nothing, meaning we went back and forth, we dropped the bunker busters, we got rid of some of their nuclear facilities, Israel's happy because now they don't have to keep going back and forth. And Iran got their symbolic attack off. They told the Qatari officials yesterday and the American officials they were going to attack an American base in Qatar. That's done. It's over with. We move on. If that's the extent of it, if that really is the extent of it, I think the market moves on. And the implication on the market right here, which barely budged in the past 2 weeks, I think the lowest we got was 590 on the S&P, is okay, it's over. And now we can move on. So look, from that perspective, I think we're going to have to see kind of how this plays out long term, but maybe I am being too optimistic here. Maybe I am. But as of now, if this is how it plays out and there's no more retaliation from either side, and potentially we get a deal with Iran where we can lift some of the sanctions and actually start trading with them, which would be good for both economies. That one, maybe that's going to take a lot more time to get to. But the point is, at least if they're not developing nuclear weapons, I think that's the biggest thing that Trump was waiting for. What if they keep fighting after this? Then it didn't work. I mean, if they keep going back and forth, which they kind of were for the past 10 hours, which is why Trump was so pissed off to the point where he had to curse, because he really wants to be the president that gets credit for creating a ceasefire between them. Then it failed, right? Then everything he did only escalated tensions further. But time gets to tell if that's the case. Right now, we don't know. But if that is what happens, then I do think it's going to be a decent win for Trump right here. HIMS 42.23. We'll talk more about HIMS in a second. Amazon 211. Where is Bitcoin? That is at 105. Bitcoin as well was at 107 last night. So Bitcoin as well kind of liked how the events were playing out. Gold is, wow, look at that. I mean, gold down 2% kind of tells you the market's moving on from this. At least the perception is okay. What was done was done. We get to move on. And we kind of keep moving from there. So again, this could still not work. Iran could still violate the ceasefire. Israel could violate it. I think we're going to have to see over the coming weeks. But as of now, based on the data that we have, it seems like there's a chance that this works out. And if it does, that would be rather bullish. Also, on Friday, I think I forgot to mention this, but Pakistan nominated Trump for the Nobel Peace Prize on Friday. Which is, I mean, I wonder if Trump actually wins the Nobel Peace Prize. But yeah, Pakistan nominated him to be a candidate for the Nobel Peace Prize. So I guess we're going to see if he ends up winning that later as well. Amit, this is the second time I've heard Trump curse on TV. I think he's the first president to curse live on TV. Yeah, I haven't heard a president say the F word in a while. I don't think Obama ever said the F word on TV. I've heard Obama say like jackass and stuff like that. I think we heard Biden say shit, but like I don't think they've ever cursed, like said the F word like that. So you could tell he was pretty upset. But nonetheless, it seems like if he was upset for the right reasons, out of just pure passion, then people kind of want to see that as well. By the way, I forgot, Powell will be speaking today, but Powell will be testifying in front of Congress. So I think that's happening at, when is that happening? That's happening at, it's going to be happening at 10 a.m., I think, or maybe a little bit after 10:30. And that means that he's going to give his opening statement and then spend the next basically, call it 4 hours arguing with Elizabeth Warren about why rates aren't coming down. So we're probably not going to get to watch all of it, but I mean, we're going to see some of it. Last quick update on Iran, Israel. This is why Trump was kind of pissed off this morning. It was the idea of the ceasefire being broken. And, that's why he cursed on TV.
Guys, good morning. So a lot of moving pieces this morning on this story. It was around 1 a.m. Eastern when the president posted that what he called a complete and total ceasefire was going to be in effect starting then. The president had previously said that would mark an official end to what he had begun calling the 12-day war. Then it was around 3:30 a.m., all these times Eastern, that Israel's defense forces said that they identified missiles launched from Iran towards Israel. This is something that Iran denies, but just in the last few minutes, guys, the IDF is calling this a severe violation of the ceasefire and says that they will respond with force. Israel's defense minister also putting out a new statement saying he had instructed the IDF in coordination with the prime minister to continue the intense activity of attacking Tehran to thwart regime targets and terrorist infrastructures in the city. So guys, at this point, NBC News reporters on the ground have said that they have been unable to identify or to verify the situation there. So they can't say at this point for sure whether these were in fact Iranian missiles. But at this moment, it is not clear what happens to this ceasefire and whether the two sides are at this point agreeing to uphold it. President Trump does head to the Netherlands today, this hour, I should say, for the NATO summit, and we could hear from him just in the next few minutes.
And then we did hear from him, and basically he said he was pissed the hell off and that both sides need to get their act together because they don't know what the F they are doing. So again, I think we have definitely a few days to see before we can officially say if the ceasefire is in place. But based on what Trump has said, hopefully the ceasefire does go in place. And if it does, I think the markets are pretty happy about that and they can move on. Now, we did get a little bit of a statement from Powell already. So he's going to be testifying, and that whatever he says in the opening statements is going to be very similar to what he already said. The core points from it right here, which aren't that different from what he said at the FOMC, is the Fed is well positioned for the time being to wait to learn more about the likely course of the economy before adjusting policy, aka we're going to be data driven. And increased tariffs likely to push up on inflation, weigh on economic activity. This is, again, Powell crying about the fact that tariffs are going to make inflation go higher. So I think in this testimony that we get today, he's going to say the same things. He's going to say, hey, we need to be data dependent and we need to watch out for the tariffs. And it's going to be very interesting to see how the Democrats think of it. Because if you're a Democrat and you hate Trump, you might go the route of getting Powell to keep admitting that the tariffs are bad, right? And keep saying, hey, like, tell us more. Why are the tariffs so bad for blah, blah, blah? And then you can clip that and say, hey, guys, look, we can't get rates cut, not because it's Powell's fault, but because it's Trump's fault because of the tariffs, right? So that might be the angle you go through. The other angle you might be, if you're a Republican, is trying to get Powell to seem like he has no idea what he's talking about because he keeps saying he wants to be data dependent, but he's not looking at the data that's in front of us outside of this imaginary data that one day will become real with tariffs. And your angle might be getting him to basically say he's ignoring the data, CPI, PPI, PCE, all in front of us. And so I think it's going to be a shit show, quite frankly, in this testimony from both sides. They're going to try to get Powell to say what they want to say. It's going to be very interesting to see what Elizabeth Warren does, or some of these more left-leaning Democratic senators, because when Biden was president and Powell wasn't cutting rates at the same time, June of 2024, the whole idea was, hey, you're an idiot. How do you not understand that inflation's coming down? Now, I mean, that's what Trump's basically saying, right? But we have a Republican in office. I wonder if Warren is going to be as aggressive towards Powell in terms of getting rates to come down, or if she's going to be happy that he's not cutting rates, because then she gets to blame Trump for higher rates, and that, you know, potentially could lead people to be voting against Trump in the midterms. So there's going to be a variety of different ways that we see this play out. I think it starts at 10 or 10:30. I'm going to try to get the exact time, but we'll take a look at least his opening statement as well. It's going to be starting at 10 a.m. Yeah, 10 a.m. All right. So we'll get that opening statement later as well. Okay, we do have a New York City mayoral race today. This is going to be a very important race for those that live in New York City. I live very close to New York City, so I am curious. I don't have a vote because I don't live in the city. But for those that are international, I'm assuming some of you guys will definitely care. The candidate that you guys might not know about is Zohran Mamdani, who is actually beating Andrew Cuomo right now in the polls. And this is a video of some of the policies he is advocating for. It is going to be pretty damn interesting to see if this guy ends up becoming the next mayor of New York City.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day, depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you. Grocery prices?
City-owned grocery stores. I don't know if New York City has the caliber to vote for, and that's just one of many policies that are a little bit more progressive, right? At the end of the day, he is definitely not unapologetic on the progressive agenda that he's running on. He's beating Cuomo in the polls right now. Kalshi has him winning at 60%. So, I mean, look, this is up to New Yorkers at the end of the day. New York has to decide, is the city becoming that unaffordable and that unequal in terms of wealth inequality that they want to elect someone who would quite literally use this, the city's resources to make a public option for groceries? Or is there a different problem going on in the city that's creating that wealth inequality, and someone like Andrew Cuomo, who has his own set of controversies when he was the governor of New York, could potentially fix if he becomes the mayor of New York? It's going to be between him or Zohran. And so we'll know later by tonight. And I think that's going to be definitely an interesting election. And more importantly, it's about the state of where the country is, right? Because we do have midterms coming up in about a year, and that obviously is going to have a lot of implications, not only on the economy, but definitely on the stock market based on whatever side gets power in the House and the Senate. So this New York race is going to be important to see how left is the country really shifting if Zoran wins, or how much more in the middle they kind of want to be. And we'll see the results of that later tomorrow morning as well. Carnival Cruise, they have earnings today. Carnival Cruise, they are up 4%. Let me see if I can get their numbers. We got about 15 minutes until the market opens. And let's see what Carnival Cruise did. Triple V, thank you for the super chat. Again, you guys were being pretty funny when you said Triple V's not in the chat when Vlad was on CNBC, assuming that Triple V was Vlad. Well, after Vlad got off CNBC, we got a super chat. So you never know. Maybe that actually is Mr. Vlad Tenev. But thank you for the super chat. And I guess everyone gets to wonder if he is Vlad. Okay, I don't see Carnival Cruise's earnings, but it looks like they did pretty okay. They're up 4% right here. I think they beat on the top and bottom. Did they? Yes. Okay, revenue $5.8 billion, up over $400 million compared to the prior year. Record first quarter operating income of $543 million, double year-over-year. Wow, dude. That is pretty incredible. So they beat on revenue by $400 million. Operating income is $543 million. That is double year-over-year. That's the best quarter they've ever had. Adjusted net income guidance in 2024 expected to be up over 30%. They increased their net income guidance. CEO says, our first quarter was truly characterized by outperformance. This was across the board and led by incredibly strong demand throughout our portfolio, including exceptional close-in demand that exceeded expectations for both ticket prices and on-board spending. There you go. There you go. I mean, that's a hell of a quarter. Even with oil prices being where they are, even with the sort of tariff debacle that we've seen over the past couple months, the market seems to be saying that not only are people willing to travel, willing to go on these cruises, but the cruise line themselves is telling you, hey, we are as profitable as we've ever been. It's a record quarter for profitability, and demand is not slowing down, which is a good thing, because demand slowing down here would not be the best idea in the world if we're talking about it from an economic perspective. That means that NCLH should also be doing well. Or NCLH right here. Norwegian up 2.69%, and then Royal Caribbean, that one is up 1.69% as well. Okay, cool. Also, remember the New York City election today, that's a primary election as well. So it's not the official one, it's the primary mayoral election. So it is going to be an important one, but it will be the first primary in the broader scheme of what we see for New York City. Tesla right here, 356. That's up about 2.1%. AMD, wow, 133.52. Look at that. It was struggling to stay at 130 yesterday. That's up 3%. So the ceasefire is definitely helping AMD try to get back to those 52-week highs. Nvidia right here, 145.55. SoFi, 1568. Looks like SoFi wants to get to 16, which would be very exciting. Grab right here, 463. That's up 1.5. Amazon, 211. Nubank, 1255. That one's up from $10 a couple weeks ago. You got the VIX below 20 right here. Duolingo, 452. That's flat. And then Rocket Lab, 33. I don't know why Rocket Lab or ASTS got some of the love that they got yesterday. I didn't really see the major headline giving space a bid, but ASTS above 50 and Rocket Lab above 33, which is very nice to see. Zeta, I know a lot of people are talking about this one. This one is up another 7% in the pre-markets. Again, I just don't know enough about this name. I'm going to have to research and learn more about it. It is a small cap though, and if you are chasing it, you just got to be warned that chasing it might not be the best option. Oscar right here, for anyone who is chasing at 21.22, hasn't really recovered to those levels yet. Oscar down about 1%. So realistically, Zeta's had a pretty big run. I don't know if there's more in it for it to go. Maybe there is, but this is one you just got to watch out for because it is getting momentum, but it also has run a ton already. Micron, we get tomorrow, right? Yeah, Micron is not today, if I'm not wrong. Micron's up about 3.3%. Micron is tomorrow, and FedEx is today. We just had Carnival, and then Nike is also on Thursday. Kathy did some buying. So Kathy Wood last night, she did something that I think no one can disagree with. I mean, I know a lot of people bag on her for her trades, but she sold 415,000 shares of Circle after it's 7x'd. And she bought 300,000 shares of Hood, 130,000 shares of AMD, 112,000 shares of Shop, and 65,000 shares of TSM. I like it. I mean, This is one of those things where, like, she's taking advantage of the fact that she had a massive win in the IPO. You know, IPOs don't tend to do this well. Uber, by the way, up 3.3% as well. Uber getting some love. Might be a headline on Uber. And as a result of that, she diversified. So Circle, by the way, is a good sell. Circle right here is down. What is it? 5%, down about 5.4%. It hit 298 yesterday. We'll see if this thing ends up collapsing or if it holds the 200s. But I like her taking some profits yesterday and putting it into other stuff because, you know, this one just might be a little dicey to hold on to long term as well. I don't hate Circle that much. I'm just confused why they were almost worth as much as Robinhood yesterday. Like it's a little, you know, what I hate is the froth. That's what I don't like. And I just don't think it's healthy for any of us if there's that much froth in the market. Like I don't love the fact that SPACs are coming back. And I think as long as that froth kind of dies down, we have a better shot of maintaining the legitimacy ultimately at the end of the day of this bull market continuing. Okay, the reason Uber's up is because of Uber and Waymo. So here you go. Uber and Waymo bring fully autonomous rides to Atlanta. Starting today, folks in Atlanta can get matched with a Google Waymo self-driving electric Jaguar through the Uber app at no extra cost. The service covers a 65 square mile area, including downtown, Buckhead, and Capitol View. With more to come, riders can unlock the car, pop the trunk, and start their trip all from the app. This follows Uber's and Waymo's successful rollout in Austin, where rides average 4.9 stars. Okay, so Uber and Waymo partnering again. This is kind of what the Tesla bears point to, which is that Uber has the distribution of a Waymo, and Waymo's technology via LiDAR is better than neural nets. And as a result, they can scale faster than a Tesla. I think in the short term, they can scale faster than a Tesla. They've obviously had 10 million rides. Tesla's had like a couple hundred based on the Austin launch. Google right here, 167. But, you know, obviously when things get to full scale and Tesla can flip one switch and there's hundreds of thousands of vehicles in the network, you would imagine that could scale pretty quick. So that's going to be the debate over the coming years on which one can actually go to market faster. And right now, it's just a question of if Tesla can expand beyond Austin as well. So yeah, now Waymo is launching in Atlanta. Trump just tweeted, China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran. Hopefully they will be purchasing plenty from the US. Did he just tweet that right now? He did, yes. Okay, so Trump just tweeted, China can now continue to purchase oil from Iran. Hopefully they will be purchasing plenty from the US. Also, it was my great honor to make this happen. Well, he's letting us know that it was because of him that this happened. Then he said, heading to NATO, where at worst, it will be a much calmer period than what I just went through with Israel and Iran. I look forward to seeing all my very good European friends and others. Hopefully much will be accomplished. He's definitely letting us know, hey, guys, I just went through some pretty stressful shit. I hope you guys are all grateful for what I went through. By the way, did you know that I went through a lot of stressful shit, but it was my great honor to make this happen. So that was incredible, bro. Yeah, dude, I want to start saying thank you for your attention to this matter after everything I say. I really want to start doing that. I want to be like every time I have an announcement, thank you for your attention to this matter. What about the froth and Palantir mid? You don't have to be someone who thinks that I'm going to say Palantir is not frothy. Obviously, Palantir is expensive. I've been saying that since it was $100. I've been saying that since it was $70. Like, I get it. Palantir is frothy. There is some level of aggression towards this market cap. However, and we've gone through this for the past 7 months now, there is a way to justify that froth in a way that is unique to Palantir, highly differentiated from a company that issues a stable coin that 50% of their revenues go to a Coinbase, or from an IPO like Newsmax that makes their money from TV commercials in between them glazing Trump all day. You know what I mean? Like, Palantir is a one-of-one differentiated company. Does that mean it's not expensive? No, of course, it's very expensive. And there is tons of froth. There's tons of FOMO in Palantir. People are probably just buying it up for the hell of it because they want exposure. But there's something real there. There's like a real company that is growing 40%. And whatever multiple you want to put on that, that's up to the street. But there's something real. I'm not saying with Circle there's nothing real. It's just, is it real to the tune of $60 billion? Almost as much as Coinbase and Robinhood? Like, as a financial services company, maybe some people will say yes, but I think a lot of the market also agrees, yeah, maybe not. Maybe that's a little bit too much froth. Same thing for the Newsmax IPO, Webull IPO, Arrow IPO going up 300%. Like, did those companies really deserve that much momentum from the market, or was it only just hype? Palantir was stuck at $6-7 for 2 years before they actually got their momentum, right? They had to prove that they had something real, and now they're getting rewarded for that. But I think some of these IPOs that are getting a 7x, 8x, 5x as soon as they go public, like, it really begs the question, why, right? What's hyping them up? And if there's nothing really there, then that's why I think, that ends up being a little bit too frothy for the broader markets. I bought 280 puts on Circle. Pray for me. I have one put on Circle for 2027 at $80. It's down like 2%. So if that is like one little hedge I have on Circle. If that one goes down, then hopefully that put prints. One new position that I did buy yesterday, for those that don't know, United Health. So I'm in UNH. Very simple thesis on UNH. We were talking about this on the Sunday show with Steve. But I think it just kind of makes sense. And to me, it's a pretty easy risk reward. Insiders are buying. Congress representatives are buying. The stock's down 40% year to date. Trades at 11 times forward earnings, which is dirt cheap. If you assume flat EPS this year and only 15% growth, 12 to 15% growth until 2030, the EPS ends up being $45 by 2030. The historical PE on UNH is 22. Let's cut that in more than half and give it a 10 PE. That's a $450 stock price, which is 50% upside from here. So to me, this is kind of simple in terms of if this has a reversion back to the mean. Now, maybe it doesn't. Maybe there's some headlines I don't know about. Maybe there's some investigation, yada, yada, which is why it's a small position. It's about an $8,000 position. I bought the 420 call, sold the 460 call against it. So it's a call debit spread. If UNH is 460 in 2.5 years, which UNH was the 15th largest company in America before they fell. I think in the next 2.5 years, the market kind of moves on from this. They're able to recover. Then this would be a 5x return. So I paid about $823 per share, so $823 per contract. It could be worth a max of $40 by the end of December if UNH is back above 460. And the other thing I really like about this is it's a hedge, because if you get into a recession in 2026, people are going to go to defensives. And one of the most undervalued defensives, objectively, in the healthcare sector is UNH. So I do think in a world where I have a lot of growth with Hood, Palantir, Nvidia, Tesla, Rocket Lab, HIMS, et cetera, like you kind of want some of that growth to be hedged against with a deep value play. It could be a value trap, but I also have Grab, right, which is, I think, de-risked, but that's also, very speculative. Having a little bit of deep value there is not crazy. And so that's what we got with UNH. So there you go. We got about 2 minutes until the market opens. Steve did not buy the options. Steve loves talking about them, but not buying them. So maybe he'll buy them later, but who knows, dude? UNH could fall back to like 250. You could maybe get a better deal. I mean, this next earning is going to be really important, because although there's a lot of insider buying happening right now in UNH, we just don't know if it's going to manifest in an earnings that the street is ready to move on from. And I'm not expecting this to pump anytime soon, but I have 2.5 years. So I kind of think like over the next couple of years, it should be okay. In terms of HIMS, we got the statement from Andrew Dudum yesterday. It wasn't the most convincing to me. I've seen a lot of people, quite frankly, say this is a full-on thesis breaker, and they are out of the name, which is pretty damn incredible. 42.39 right here. And the stock really hasn't recovered. I mean, it's barely up from where it was at the lows yesterday at 41.50. No one really bought this dip. And I'm still doing my research on trying to understand what's going on. I'm not selling any of my shares, but there are people that are pretty damn upset about this. I do think it's a little bit of an overreaction, 35% down because they lost one partnership. But you got some people saying, hey, if they're going to try to undercut Big Pharma, they're not going to get away with that. And Big Pharma is going to eat them up. And this becomes the question of, do you think HIMS really has a moat to be able to survive in terms of dealing with Big Pharma? And ultimately, time will get to tell. So from that perspective, you do have some people that are struggling on this one. And the CEO basically said, hey, we're not going to let Big Pharma strongman us, which is fine. I don't know if that's going to be enough to gain the confidence of investors in general. All right, here we go. Tuesday, June 24th, 9:30 a.m. Thank you, everybody, for being here. The stock market is now open. Wake your ass up. Let's get into it. Robinhood opens up 77.52. That's up about 1.5%. Palantir 140.83. That's down about 0.5%. By the way, UNH also uses Palantir. Forgot to mention that. So if any software could help them navigate what they're going through right now, maybe it would be Palantir as well. Palantir right here, 140.54. That's up about 0.45%. Nvidia 145.86. That's up 1.715%. AMD 133. If AMD can crack over 135, that would be exciting. That would be very, very exciting. HIMS 42.58. That's up about 1.4%. Grab up 2.4%, 467. Google 166.24. SoFi 15.80. Let's see if SoFi can finally get 16. I will check resistance levels across the market in a second, but maybe there's a shot. Meta above 705, Salesforce 266, PayPal 72.94. That's up a little bit. Elf at 125. Where is Nebius? Nebius right here. Is that green? 50.70. Wow. Why is that up 7%? I don't know, but I have it in my portfolio. So, or I have it in my ETF. So that one's definitely going to help me today. Wow. Why is that running? Is CoreWeave running with it? CoreWeave is flat. What's the Nebius news, guys? That's big. That's an 8% move. That is monster, bro. That is massive. Celsius also up 3%. Tesla 352. Again, Tesla, great day yesterday. Robotaxis are here. Would not be surprised if Tesla chills out at 350. Would also not be surprised if it gaps up to 360. But right now, Tesla 351, that's slightly down on the day. Palantir 139, Robin at 77.15, HIMS 41.84. HIMS goes red. HIMS goes red. Where's Oscar? Is Oscar going red with it? Oscar goes red. Why is Oscar down 8%? Holy crap. Oscar's getting hit. Is VG down again? Damn, VG was down 15% yesterday, down 5% today. Again, people are probably taking profits as well. VG is up more than double, but this one is potentially getting hit from oil prices coming down, even though oil prices don't necessarily affect VG like they would affect a Chevron or something like that. But there you go. That one's down 4%. Tesla 350. S&P is green, so it's not like we have red candles across the board, but Oscar, HIMS, and VG getting hit right here. Oscar down 7.4, but Nebius is getting some love. Nvidia 146, baby. Maybe some of that money's leaving freaking Oscar and Circle and going to some good names like Nvidia right here. I'm not saying those are bad names, but just, we're getting into some higher quality companies as well. Nvidia right here, 145, HIMS 43. HIMS goes green. It went red for a second. Now it goes green. Palantir 138, SoFi 1567. Nebius still up right here, 7% on the day. Carnival Cruise Line, they had a good earnings. Carnival Cruise Line up 8%. There you go. There you go. Congrats to Mr. Chris Patel. We know that he is deep in Carnival Cruise. They had one of their best operating income quarters ever, doubled it at $583 million. Stock market is reflecting that. And even if you're not into stock, what's really good about this for the economy is that there is demand for people to spend on things that are a luxury, like a cruise, which you kind of need in a booming economy. If you have a bear market, you have a recession, like people are not necessarily going on cruises as much, although there is an argument that people would go on more cruises in a recession. But the point is spending activity is high, which is a good thing for Carnival Cruise. S&P right here, 604, grab 467. That's up about 2.4%. HIMS is coming back. HIMS is trying to come back 4%. Coming back a little bit green right here. CCL, we looked at that. Circle, that is down 4%. That is down 4%. Okay, why is Oscar getting crushed? Does anyone know? Does anyone have the headline on Oscar and Nebius? One is red, one is green. AMD 134. Wow, AMD touched 135. Oh my, this is not the advanced money destroyer anymore. Most people started DCAing at this price in around November 2024 is when most people started getting excited about this one. 136 resistance on AMD is 33,000 shares, 33,814 shares. Celsius is green. Broadcom getting some love. Look at that. Broadcom, that's a big move. That's 5% on a freaking one. Wow. When did Broadcom become 1.25 trillion? I feel like it was always at 850 billion. Yeah, that's a pretty big move, dude, on $1 trillion company. That is incredible. So that's getting some love. Nvidia is getting some love. Nubank right here getting some love. All the semis kind of getting, there has to be some semi headline that I haven't seen. Look at this. All the semis, SMCI, Intel, TSM, Qualcomm, ON, Marvel, ARM, Micron, Nvidia, all of them getting some momentum right here. Oh, Oscar did get downgraded. You're right. I saw this morning, actually. You're right. Yeah, they did get downgraded. But I didn't think that downgrade would lead to this bad of a decline. There you go. I guess it's very sensitive to these downgrades right now. Down 8%. And there you go. Oscar's still up from $11. So, I mean, if you got in early, you're doing well. But if you got in at 21, 22, this is the problem with chasing. You just got to find out, hey, is there a conviction? Do you DCA here? Or did you kind of just get in for the short-term dopamine of it? JetBlue is up because Morgan Stanley upgraded them to $8. So that's why JetBlue is up. Again, JetBlue is shorted about 20%. So MS came out yesterday. They said, hey, we think it's worth $8. They're already short 20%. So that could be the thesis right here on why JetBlue is getting some love. Is Rocket Lab mooning? Wow, Rocket Lab, 33.27. It got to 33.94, folks. Where's ASTS? Or is that still holding 50? That is just below 50. But Rocket Lab trying to get to 34. And that would officially be, well, this is already the all-time high. but 34 would be incredible. 34 is 21,000 shares. 21,000 shares waiting on Rocket Lab to get some momentum. Tesla 347. I think that's to be expected. It had a monster day yesterday, taking a little bit of a breather. Not that big of a deal. Palantir right here, also taking a breather, down 1%. HIMS is going a bit more green, up 5%. SoFi, let me check resistance at 16. It would be very nice to see SoFi with a 6 after the 1. It has been a long time since we saw it. 16 is 120,000 shares. 120,000 shares for SoFi at 16. Apple, are we moving on Apple? Apple's a little green as well, 202. JP Morgan traders say it's time to get bulled up again. All right, folks, we got JP Morgan. If they're ready to get bullish again, that might be bearish, but if they're ready to get bulled up again, that means Goldman Sachs, Citibank, all these guys are going to come out with their bull cases now. Now they probably feel the confidence to say S&P 500 to 7,000 again, which, you know, they were saying in December 2024, then it kind of went away after the tariffs. But we got to see if they come back. Yeah, it could be a sell. It could be a short-term top when JP Morgan comes out and says, hey, it's time to get bullish. But it also could be continuing on to momentum. AMD 134.76. Broadcom new all-time high. Incredible. Yeah, here's the Max 7 doing incredibly well on the day. You got Meta 713, 712. Microsoft, wow, new all-time high for Microsoft. Is Microsoft going for 500? 490 right there. Google 167, Nvidia 146, Tessie 348, Amazon 213, and then Apple at 202. And then HIMS is indeed up 5%. All right, so HIMS getting some level of a bid that it's catching. It kind of feels like a sympathy bid, quite frankly, which is good. At least we're getting a sympathy bid here. But that one is up about 4.3%. Maybe that can continue. Wow, Netflix all-time highs as well. Look at that. Yeah, 1260 on Netflix. All-time highs. Dude, I mean, ceasefire. If the ceasefire is real, maybe we're bullish. Maybe we're way more bullish than what we thought it was going to be like a couple weeks ago. Next decade. So why is next decade up but VG's down? Next decade's up 8%. VG's down 4%. That's weird, bro. They tend to move with each other more often than not. That is a little weird. Oracle is up 2% as well, 212. Oracle 212. And Visa's recovering. Dude, okay, hold on. Let's check these ETF updates, bro. Some of my stocks are not doing horrible. I was dead last a couple of days ago. I think yesterday I ended at what was I? Yesterday I was number 2. Let's see what we got. What do we have today? All right. I am up 1.3 all time. Matt's up 8.7. Matt's winning. Chris is down 0.57. Tanner's up 2.6. Steve's down. Okay. So it's Matt, Tanner, me, Chris, Steve. Chris is last. Steve is last. And HIMS is probably the reason he's getting hurt the most from that. So I'm about 3rd right now in this. Visa right here, up 2.68% currently right now. CCL, Carnival Cruise, look at that, 10%. Congrats if you're in this one. Congrats if you are in the cruise lines. Getting a big move today, up 9.1%. And all the cruise lines, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, all of them getting some love as well. Did I say currently right now again? Dude, yesterday on the market close, I asked you guys to tell me what are some of my phrases that I say every day. I didn't realize I say currently right now all the time. I didn't know I say currently right now. Who would have thought I said currently right now all the time? D-Local, that's up 10% as well. This one is an international name, I believe in the payment space. This one's getting some love. That one is up 10% currently right now. Okay, that was trolling. That was I didn't realize I say currently right now. Palantir 139, Robin at 77.98. Where is UNH? UNH right here. There you go. UNH up about 1%. Again, Palantir, UNH uses Palantir. So they do have an operating system that's pretty advanced in terms of dealing with all the hiccups they've been seeing over the past couple of months, just in regards to the public media perception headlines and then all the claims that are being filed against them around fraud, etc. Maybe that stuff is legitimate and that could hurt UNH. But at 11 times earnings, when you got insiders that are buying the crap out of it and Congress representatives that are buying it heavy, I mean, it just feels like there's a shot for this one to be a stock that can recover, that doesn't have to have that much work to be done in order for it to recover, because the free cash flows and the profits are there. They just have to get through some of that perception. Now, maybe it's a 2.5-year headwind on narrative and perception. But if not, then I think that, along with their ability to embrace next-gen analytics, that could definitely help them hopefully move on and kind of get back to that $400 range. S&P 605, baby. S&P's up 1%. AMD 134, trying to get to 135. Grab trying to make a run to 470, 468 right here. And then Googs trying to get back to 167 on the day. Amazon 2% as well. Is ABCL moving? ABCL, Amazon right here is up 2%. ABCL is also up 2.3%. There you go. There you go. BBAI, that is up 10% as well. Big Bear, that's up 11.4. Either they got a contract today or you got some people that are just getting more bullish on it. That one as well is up about 11%. Did Oscar bounce back? Let's see. Oscar, did people buy the dip? Yeah, still down 5%. A little bit of a bounce, though. It was down about 10%. Now it's down 5%, which is a bit of a recovery here. Okay, what is Nvidia trying to do? Are we finally getting past this one? Oh, there you go, 147. I thought we were still stuck at 146. 147, okay, so we busted through that. I feel like she wants 150 at this point. 148 resistance on Nvidia is 518,000 shares. 518,000 shares. Maybe we can beat and get back into the 150s. Navitas as well, up 8.75%. APLD is up about 2%. And then Nebius, I still don't know the headline on this one, but that's up 5%. Did they get upgraded today? That could have been the reason why these guys are up 6%. But Nvidia kind of leading the way. All the semis leading the way. I'm trying to see if there's any headline on the semis because every semi is up almost 2%. Broadcom's at all-time highs. I guess it's Ceasefire. That's enough for the market to be excited about Ceasefire. And like that should maybe get us closer to a China deal. Jensen did sell 100,000 shares yesterday. So he's obviously lost all of his conviction on Nvidia. But outside of that, I don't think there's any other crazy headlines. Nvidia 147.34 right now. Is there any price you would buy Oscar? I just really haven't done enough research on it, dude. Like, I like it. I think our deep dive was good, but again, do I want to pay attention to all the intricacies and nuances of Oscar? It's like, not really. So now if it gets like to 12 again, like sure, maybe like even 14, 15, because I feel like at least from a pure just, hey, like this is it's already undervalued right here, but if it gets down to this, like objectively, it's really cheap. Yeah, I'd probably buy a little bit. But outside of that, I just don't want to chase it at 19.20. Just not these levels. I mean, honestly, it's probably going to do better than UNH short term, but I feel like UNH is way safer. And so I'm happy with the option position I have on that. HIMS right here, 43.64. Google 167, or trying to get to 167. AMD 134. And then Tessie is the Mag 7 that's getting hit today, but it was up a lot last night. Chad says I bought a burrito yesterday. Dude, okay. You guys have to remind me to never buy Chipotle. Because I got Chipotle yesterday. And I was like, all right, I'm going to have a burrito. Relatively healthy. Not that big of a deal. Look at this freaking burrito, bro. This burrito did not turn into a burrito. Like the burritos, like I want them to give me a ton of stuff in the burritos, but it turned into a salad. It can barely hold up. Like I was like, I should have just got a bowl at this point. Like, I feel like I'm done getting burritos at Chipotle because like they're not going to stay as a burrito. It's just going to collapse, and then you have a bunch of tortilla with salad. So that was an unfortunate experience yesterday, but it was a good salad at the end. Pound right here, 139. Tesla 246. Where is Chipotle? This stock has been kind of flat. 54. It's actually up 1.6. It's been stuck around 50 to 54. Ackman has started selling a decent amount of his stake. So, he bought in 2014 and he is starting to de-risk a little bit more from Chipotle. Nvidia, again, 500,000 shares at 148 to get over the hump. It is kind of close, 30 cents away. Let's see if the market makers give us the chance to get above it. And then Circle, is that green or no? Circle, of course, Circle recovers. Again, I'm not hating on Circle, bro. I just kind of feel it's a little too frothy. And I feel like that money should be going into other parts of the market. Otherwise, we just keep, having a market that is dealing with speculation. So how cool was it though that Vlad said a lot of retail investors on Robinhood are buying Palantir? That was the first time I've ever heard him say Palantir. That was the first time. There's actually a funny story I had with this. So when I went to see him, Robinhood right here, almost at 79. When I went to see him at the after the earnings, when I went to their headquarters in California, and I did like that little interview, he said, "Hey, we have a gold event coming up, and probably going to be in March, so hopefully you can make it." But I also knew that Palantir has AIPCon usually in March, and so I was like, "What date is the gold event?" And he was like, "I don't know. Why?" And I was like, "Well, I have something else to do in March as well. I probably have to go somewhere." He was like, "Where do you have to go?" I was like, "Well, I probably have Palantir AIPCon." And he was like, it was so funny, bro. It was like, okay, so if they were both on the same day, which one would you choose? And he has all the employees just staring at me in that moment. And I'm like, I plead the fifth. I was obviously going to say Palantir, but I don't want to say it in front of him. And so I was just like, well, a wise man once said nothing at all. That's literally what I said. And they all started laughing. But I think he knows, bro. It's like, I'm picking AIPCon. Like, I'm not choosing Robinhood over Palantir. Robinhood right here, 79. There you go. So thankfully they didn't conflict and I was able to do both. But it was funny because that's the only time I've heard him talk about Palantir. But then today on CNBC, he finally said, hey, retail investors on our platform, one of the big AI names they're buying is Palantir. And we already knew this because if you look at the Robinhood Investor Index, every month they release the top 10 stocks that are owned on their platform. If you look at this right here, there's Palantir. Palantir, Disney, Amazon, Meta, GameStop, Apple, Ford, Nvidia, Tesla, Microsoft, and Meta. I don't know why the hell GameStop is still there. It makes me sad every time I see it, but GameStop is still there. All right, Robinhood, are we going for 80? Are we going for 80? 79.40. Could we get to 80? 47,000 shares, folks. 47,000 shares. Oh, she wants it. She wants it. It looks like she wants it. It's up 4%, 60 cents away. It looks like she wants it. Did Vlad say when mortgages will be widely available? No, not yet, but they are rolling it out in beta to a lot of their cohorts. So I would imagine like in the next coming months, a lot of people will have the potential to get a mortgage through HUD. And if they do, again, I think they'll probably roll it out with their banking products. Like probably they're going to announce it officially when they roll out banking in September. Because that's another thing we don't talk about. You are going to be able to connect your direct deposit from whatever company you work at with Robinhood. And it doesn't have to go into an investment account. It can go into a Robinhood bank account, which probably gets you way more yield than a JP Morgan bank account. And so that in and of itself should accelerate net deposits dramatically over the coming years, which is just another bull case on HUD as well. All right, 79.37. We got about 60 cents to see. 60 cents to see if we can get there. Celsius, great day for Celsius, up 6%. Wow. Celsius outperforming pretty much every tech stock. It's up 70% year to date. Palantir right back to 140. Tessie 349. Nvidia 147, getting rejected at 147.90, but we did get there. S&P above 605. Grab 468. That's up about 2.6% on the day. SMCI, they did a convertible note offering. That's up about 2%, but down 10% from yesterday. And then Bitcoin right here at 105 as well. Google still trying to get to 167. Is UNH dropping? UNH is red. I'm expecting UNH to be flat until we get earnings. And on earnings, it either goes down 10% or goes up 10%. I feel like that's how this plays out. So this is one where, as a long-term investment, I really do think it's going to be okay long-term, but short-term, there's probably going to be a lot of manipulation on this one. So earnings will be the telltale on UNH. And the problem is if they get another investigation by the DOJ or anything, that DOJ, that's going to be like annoying for the stock. So that's one thing everyone has to watch out for. Those headlines definitely could get this thing back into that 270 range. Robinhood, all right, she's trying 79.55. She is trying. UNH earnings, I think, is end of July. End of July. Most companies are pretty much end of July or throughout July. Nvidia will be August, but yeah, that one should be end of July. Do you think Robinhood will give loans where you can use stock crypto as collateral? Would be huge. Yes, I think that's going to happen. And also Fannie Mae is thinking of that. The director of the Federal Housing Administration yesterday, the guy who was on stage with Alex Karp a couple weeks ago, look at what he said. We will study the use of cryptocurrency holdings as it relates to qualifying for mortgages. I mean, dude, this is Trump's America, right? Like, this would not happen in Biden's America. This would not happen in Harris's America. You would not have the FHA director thinking that we can use crypto to potentially figure out if you can collateralize a mortgage. Now, granted, that might be a horrible idea. That might be the worst idea in the world, especially if Bitcoin's a scam and Bitcoin goes to zero, because then you're going to have a lot of people that have their loans backed by nothing. However, if Bitcoin is here to stay forever and it is a legitimate thing and you have a ton of Bitcoin, why shouldn't that be used as a way to back up your collateral, just like your Tesla stock or your Apple stock could be used like that? So it might be an experiment that doesn't work, but it might be something that ends up being very valuable to the broader housing industry as well. Robin at 79.70, 30 cents away. 30 cents away from 80. Microsoft to cut jobs at Xbox division next week. Dude, these guys are cutting jobs. Like, Microsoft has cut about 7,000 jobs, if I'm not wrong on the numbers, over the past month. It's been a bit aggressive, bro. Just cutting a deal. Like, if any company is seeing innovation via AI and productivity gains, it's Microsoft, because they're showing us how many jobs they don't need anymore. But they've been one of the main tech companies doing that. Meta, Google, they haven't really done as many layoffs as before. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett says we will see a sequence of trade deals around the 4th of July. You know, that actually makes sense. That actually makes sense. If we get the big, beautiful bill passed by July 4th and we announce trade deals, dude, the start of July is going to be fun. The start of July is going to be very fun if that is how this plays out. So, yeah, that would be something that we have to keep our eyes on as well. But it would be another big win for Trump. It'd be another big win for Trump if he's able to get that done. If they allow Bitcoin to be used to collateralize mortgages, it's over. Bitcoin wins. Even if it, quote unquote, goes to zero, the government will have to buy it out. It would be too big to fail. It's a fair point. It's a fair point. I mean, if the government starts accepting it as a legitimate way to back up mortgages, which mortgages are a big part of the economy, the government would at least have an incentive to not let it fail. I mean, that might encourage the real creation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve, just so there's a bidder always on an asset that is being used to back so many federal loans. Robinhood, 79.70. She's trying to get there. She's trying to get there. Again, at $80, the resistance is 41,000 shares. So now it's just a question of volume and if we can get her over the hump. Roberto, thank you for the super chat. The benefit of buying the spread options is that you can buy a lot more contracts. Why not just buy the calls at 420 for UNH? Well, if I buy the calls at 420 for UNH, it needs to significantly go above 420 for me to make any meaningful profit, right? Unless it's like a short-term trade in the meantime. For me, I kind of like the idea that the hedge to the downside is the short call, the 460, that protects me if it is more volatile than I think it is. It's kind of like a hedging against my own bias. Like, yes, I'm really bullish, but what if it goes down? What if I'm wrong? What if it goes to 250? Also, there's worlds, if it really does go down substantially, I could close the short end of my call for a major profit and then just DCA into those long calls at 420 and kind of hold it out from there. So there's different ways to navigate it, but I like the hedge that the short call gives you. And in general, I just like the fact that it's a sort of defined amount that I know what I'm getting into versus needing it to substantially get above 420 by December 2027. But I don't think the 420 calls are bad either. I mean, you have 2.5 years for it to play out. It's just you're paying a little bit more premium to buy it. Robinhood, all right, 79.80. 79.80. She's trying. Do I buy more Hood? Dude, I want to buy Hood at 80. I want to have a buy at 80. Because if we go to 80, bro, I think we're going higher, and I wouldn't care. So I want to buy when we get to 80. But we just got to see if we can get there. You guys, oh, shoot, Powell's talking in 5 minutes. I forgot. Oh, boy. Powell might say some, oh, my gosh. I forgot. Even if we get 80, guys, we got to. I mean, he's not going to say anything that different, though, right? SoFi 1560. But he is going to be talking. He is going to be talking. Google's at 167, Meta 708, Apple 200, that goes red, Bitcoin 105, Baba 114, Walmart 97, Cisco 67, Lockheed 463, IBKR is up a little bit. Nvidia is still holding on 147. HIMS kind of losing its pump. Dude, there are really no bidders for HIMS. There's really no one buying HIMS. Like, this one's not 2% is nothing after a 37% down. Like there's just not enough people coming into the story. The sentiment is more negative than not in terms of even OG bulls saying like this is not a good thing for HIMS. But I think it's now contingent on the story of the lawsuit and if HIMS legitimately was being as deceptive as Novo is accusing them of being. And, that's going to determine kind of the trajectory of the stock right here. Robin at 79.70, still trying to get above that level. AMD 136. Are we getting it? AMD, yeah, 136 broke through. Oh, 79.90. Oh, here we go. Oh, 80. There she is. There she is. There she goes, folks. We did it. There she is. $80 officially. The last time we saw 80 was after hours before S&P inclusion. So this one is a real 80. There she goes on hoodie. From 8 to 80. From 8 to 80. Congratulations, everybody. We got to ring the bell on $80 on Robinhood. From 8 to 80 on the hoodie. It's been a long journey, but it's been fun covering this entire journey. There you go. Now let's see if we can get back there. 79.78. We got to see if we can get back above that $80 level. But if we do, that would be pretty exciting. The fact that we got through it means that I think we'll get back above it. I mean, this tends to happen with Hood. You got to give it a little bit of time, but I think it'll get back above it. And there you go. We are going to see it. We are going to see it. Congrats to everyone. Congrats to everyone. Big moment. Super fun to see it. This is the fun part about going on a journey with the stock. You get to follow these moments. There she goes. Now she's breaking through. $80 on hoodie. If we can get a close above hoodie, that would be incredible today. But there she is. It's just kind of wild looking at 80, bro. It is wild looking at 80. My first buys were at 850 in December 2023. Like first real buys. July 2023, I was dabbling here and there, but December 2023, when I really decided, is around 850. And now we're here at 80. Palantir at 140. Tesla 348. Is S&P red? S&P is still pretty green, 604. But Robinhood, $80.27. All right, Powell's going to be speaking in 2 minutes. We're going to see what Mr. Powell has to say, and then we will keep going from there. Chris, we're going to both listen to Powell together, and then we can react to it. But good morning. How are you?
Good, man. Just appreciating this nice move up on the cruise lines. Shows that there's still demand for cruising. I was looking at some recent data. Dude, there's just demand is off the hook. If you look at like the backlog for Carnival Cruise Lines, they have an $8.5 billion total deposits right now, which is insane if you think about it. Because if you know how like certain businesses work, they take these deposits way ahead of time and you get something called a float, and you can monetize that float by doing stuff with it. So that money is just sitting in the accounts that now you can do things with, right? So Carnival, because it has some debt that incurred during COVID, they can pay off a lot of that debt using that income from the forward mark, which is a huge interest savings for them. That's why if you look at their EPS, they beat their EPS like guidance by almost 40%, which is pretty insane if you think about it. So, yeah, I mean, we're in a good place when it comes to the cruise lines. I think once you understand the businesses, you can do really well, and I think that's the key with a lot of companies. There are always going to be companies that trade more based on momentum than real business fundamentals, but there are other businesses out there that might not be as sexy, where if you just understand how the debt structure of a company works, and then how they're planning on basically making money, you can actually do really well. So, yeah.
Chris, we got a new post by Trump. Powell is not live yet, guys. Once he goes live, I will switch over to him, but he is not live yet. We do have a pretty long post by Trump that I'm going to read right here. Let me just pull this up real quick. Okay, cool. So this is what Trump had to say. Here we go. All right. Stupid AOC Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, one of the dumbest people in Congress, is now calling for my impeachment, despite the fact that the crooked and corrupt Democrats have already done that twice before. The reason for her ratings is all of the victories that the USA has had under the Trump administration. The Democrats aren't used to winning, and she can't stand the concept of her country being successful again. When we examine her test scores, we will find that she is not qualified for office, but nevertheless far more qualified than Crockett, who is a serious low IQ individual, or Ilhan Omar, who does nothing but complain about her country. Yet the failed country that she comes from doesn't have a government, is drenched in crime and poverty, and is rated one of the worst in the world. If it's even rated at all, how dare the mouse tells us how to run the United States of America? We're just not going to come back from that radical left experiment with Sleepy Joe, Kamala, the auto pen in charge. What a disaster it was. AOC should be forced to take the cognitive test that I just completed at Walter Reed Medical Center as part of my physical. As the doctor in charge said, President Trump aced it, meaning I got every question right. Instead of her constant complaining, AOC should go back to the Queens, where I was also brought up, and straighten out her filthy, disgusting, crime-ridden streets in the district she represents and which she never goes to anymore. She better start worrying about her own primary before she thinks about beating our great Palestinian senator, crying Chuck Schumer, whose career is definitely on very thin ice. She and her Democrat friends have just hit the lowest poll numbers in congressional history, so go ahead and try impeaching me again. Make my day. Any reaction, Chris?
Nah, man. I mean, AOC is one of the reasons why there's instructions on the shampoo bottles. As what's his name? One of the senators from, I think, Louisiana said, Amazon was going to come to her district in Astoria, right? Well, that whole area, and they were going to build a headquarters there, bring in thousands of jobs. All right, tons of business. The entire business community in the area was happy as hell. AOC said, no, we can't give tax subsidies and all this other stuff to Amazon. Amazon's like, look, we're gonna basically like make this part of the city one of the craziest, like in terms of investment. AOC got together, Bill de Blasio, who originally supported the idea, backtracked because they got a whole bunch of like idiots. Oh, my rent is gonna go up. My rent is gonna go up. It's like, dude, we get that, and the poor need a place to stay. But if you develop the area and grow its economy, that means people have jobs. People get out of poverty. People have things that that you can look forward to in the future because from all the tax revenue and incentives that you end up getting. But people like her would rather see us all just be poor and broke, but equal. I don't want to be equally poor with everyone. I want everyone to come up. So that mentality that's out there that some of these guys have is completely stupid. It's like, yeah, our goal isn't everyone becomes wealthier. Like, even if, like, let's say I'm not a billionaire, like, oh my God, I hate on Jeff Bezos because he gets to be, if like he gets to fly around in a private jet. Bro, my portfolio is higher every day because I own Amazon stock.
Yeah.
You know, all of us in this economy who actually own stocks, bonds, we are part owners of success. People have to remember that. People like her, they want poverty. They propel poverty. Why? Because that is the base that they've created. And the entire time, the entirety of their existence is, you are poor because someone else succeeded. No, that's not how life works. The US is not better because like we took all this shit away from poor people around the world. Like, no, we innovated. We are successful. And because of that, all those successes get trickled down to everyone else as well. All right. Could we be a little bit better in terms of like social spending here and there? Yeah, of course. But you can't go full communist and socialist and then expect things to work out well. I mean, you look at New York City right now, they're about to elect this idiot Mondami who's like, oh yeah, let's do socialized grocery stores. When has that ever worked, you fool?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see the climate of the political apparatus in the United States and how far left or right we are willing to go. Powell is live. He's giving his open statement. Let's switch that right here, and then we'll try to get a reaction after about 10 minutes.
Someone in the chat saying it's never been tried. socialized grocery stores have been tried all around the world, bro, and they've never worked out. Like, go ask anyone who lived through the communist era in the Soviet Union, bro. Bring the efficiency of the DMV to the grocery store. Yeah, that'll work out well.
Yeah, that might not be the best idea.
Committees and making the Fed leaner and efficient by right-sizing your workforce across the system. These moves reflect a commitment to efficiency at the Federal Reserve. I'm also pleased that Governor Mickey Bowman has been confirmed as Vice Chair for Supervision at the board. Governor Bowman has been a tireless advocate for community banks, and this committee is eager to work with her on policies that enhance our bank's ability to provide greater access to capital and services for our families and businesses across our nation. I look forward to today's hearing, and I yield back the balance of my time. I'll now recognize Mr. Foster on behalf of the ranking member for 4 minutes for an opening statement.
Thank you, and I will save everyone a little bit of time. Ranking Member Waters was unavoidably detained. I'll just say a little bit that the markets have kind of spoken on their confidence in the Trump economy. Probably the single simplest metric of that is that the U.S. dollar is down roughly 10%. Okay, this is not a small thing, and it has caused countries around the world to question the primacy of the U.S. dollar going forward. This is one of the worst market responses, I think, to the chaos that we're seeing, the tariffs that are very destructive to international trade, and just everything that the markets are seeing and trying to suffer through. I know I'm contacted all the time by businesses in my district, manufacturing businesses that can't even start thinking about investing with the level of chaos just from the tariff policy alone. Anyway, there's a long set of things we should be talking about, and I'm happy to save some people. I'm contacted all the time by businesses in my district, manufacturing businesses that can't even start thinking about investing with the level of chaos just from the tariff policy alone. Anyway, there's a long set of things we should be talking about, and I'm happy to save some people some time, and let's get to it. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I recognize the Chairman of the Task Force on Monetary Policy, Treasury Market Resilience, and Economic Prosperity, Mr. Lucas, for 1 minute for an opening statement.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today's hearing will allow us to evaluate the state of the economy and review the FOMC's policy decisions. It's appropriate to regularly take a step back and assess the central bank's performance and its responsiveness to the economic conditions our constituents face back home. This hearing is particularly timely conversation as the Fed wraps up its 5-year framework review, including a thorough look at the consensus statement, communication strategy, and other guiding policies that will have a profound effect on the lives of every American. Many of these topics we'll discuss today, we've taken a closer look at in the Monetary Policy, Treasury Market Resilience, and Economic Prosperity Task Force. I look forward to building on these conversations here. One issue that I think warrants special attention is the binding nature of the SLR and ESLR on the Treasury market intermediation. I'm glad to see the Fed is looking into this tomorrow, and I hope we'll see meaningful action soon. Chairman Powell, thank you for being here. It's critically important that Congress and the central bank have an open dialogue. Transparency, accountability, honest communications are pillars of our system's success. I look forward to your testimony on the state of the economy and the Fed's plans for the future. And I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. I recognize the ranking member of the Task Force on Monetary Policy, Treasury Market Resilience, and Economic Prosperity, Mr. Vargas, for 1 minute for an opening statement.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and ranking member. And thank you, Chairman Powell, both for your years of public service and for being here today. Since 1977, the Fed has been tasked by Congress with its dual mandate goals of achieving both maximum employment and stable prices. Unfortunately, this administration has made accomplishing these goals more difficult. In the Fed's most recent summary of economic projections, we see a forecast for slower growth, stickier inflation, and rising unemployment, all of which point to a potential stagflation scenario. Whether it's the president's indecision on trade policy, his hiring freezes impacting the collection of economic data, his ballooning of the deficit to cut taxes for the wealthy, or his name calling, all of these actions make it tougher for the Fed to do its job. I look forward to your testimony today, Mr. Powell, Chairman Powell, and I yield back with that.
Gentleman yields back. Today, we do welcome the testimony of the Honorable Jerome Powell, Chair of the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve System. Chairman Powell, we thank you for taking time to be with us. You'll be recognized for 5 minutes to give an oral presentation of your written testimony, and without objection, your written
Ahmed, are you going to listen to this entire thing?
Just the testimony. That's it. These 5 minutes. Just these 5 minutes, then we'll move on.
Thank you, Chairman Hill, Ranking Member, and other members of the committee. It's great to be back here today. I appreciate the opportunity to present the Federal Reserve's semi-annual monetary policy report. The Federal Reserve remains squarely focused on achieving our dual mandate goals of maximum employment and stable prices for the benefit of the American people. Despite elevated uncertainty, the economy is in a solid position. The unemployment rate remains low, and the labor market is at or near maximum employment. Inflation has come down a great deal, but has been running somewhat above our 2% longer run objective. We are attentive to the risks on both sides of our dual mandate. I will review the current economic situation before turning to monetary policy. Incoming data suggests that the economy remains solid. Following growth of 2.5% last year, GDP was reported to have edged down in the first quarter, reflecting swings in net exports that were driven by businesses bringing in imports ahead of potential tariffs. This unusual swing has complicated GDP measurement. Private domestic final purchases, or PDFP, which excludes net exports, inventory investment, and government spending, grew at a solid 2.5% rate. Within PDFP, growth of consumer spending moderated, while investment in equipment and intangibles rebounded from weakness in the fourth quarter. Surveys of households and businesses, however, report a decline in sentiment in recent months and elevated uncertainty about the economic outlook, largely reflecting trade policy concerns. It remains to be seen how these developments might affect future spending and investment. In the labor market, conditions have remained solid. Payroll job gains averaged a moderate 224,000 per month in the first 5 months of the year. The unemployment rate at 4.2% in May remains low and has stayed in a narrow range for the past year. Wage growth has continued to moderate while still outpacing inflation. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that the conditions in the labor market are broadly in balance and consistent with maximum employment. The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. The strong labor market conditions in recent years have helped narrow longstanding disparities in employment and earnings across demographic groups. Inflation has eased significantly from its highs in mid-2022, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer run goal. Estimates based on the Consumer Price Index and other data indicate that total personal consumption expenditures, or PCE prices, rose 2.3% over the 12 months ending in May, and that, excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.6%. Near-term measures of inflation expectations have moved up over recent months, as reflected in both market and survey-based measures. Respondents to surveys of consumers, businesses, and professional forecasters point to tariffs as the driving factor. Beyond the next year or so, however, most measures of longer-term expectations remain consistent with our 2% inflation goal. Our monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate to promote maximum employment and stable prices for the American people. With the labor market at or near maximum employment and inflation remaining somewhat elevated, the Federal Open Market Committee has maintained the target range for the federal funds rate at 4.25% to 4.5% since the beginning of the year. We've also continued to reduce our holdings of Treasury and agency mortgage-backed securities, and beginning in April, further slowed the pace of this decline to facilitate a smooth transition to ample reserve balances. We will continue to determine the appropriate stance of monetary policy based on the incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. Policy changes continue to evolve, and their effects on the economy remain uncertain. The effects of tariffs will depend, among other things, on their ultimate level. Expectations of that level, and thus of the related economic effects, reached a peak in April and have since declined. Even so, increases in tariffs this year are likely to push up prices and weigh on economic activity. The effects on inflation could be short-lived, reflecting a one-time shift in the price level. It's also possible that the inflationary effects could instead be more persistent. Avoiding that would depend on the size of the tariff effects, on how long it takes for them to pass through fully into prices, and ultimately on keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our obligation is to keep longer-term inflation expectations well anchored and to prevent a one-time increase in the price level from becoming an ongoing inflation problem. As we act to meet that obligation, we will balance our maximum employment and price stability mandates, keeping in mind that without price stability, we cannot achieve the long periods of strong labor market conditions that benefit all Americans. For the time being, we are well positioned to wait to learn more about the likely course of the economy before considering any adjustments to our policy stance. To conclude, we understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. We at the Fed will do everything we can to achieve our maximum employment and price stability goals. Thank you. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll now turn to member questions. I recognize myself for 5 minutes for questions. Over the past few weeks, our Democratic colleagues have suggested the following. After the initial release of the GDP report, the president is driving the economy into a recession. Chairman Powell, the latest FOMC statement described economic activity had to continue to expand at a solid pace, and you just reiterated that in your testimony this morning. In your view, is the term recession and the economy growing at a solid pace, are those synonymous with each other?
I would say no.
And you note that the labor market continues strong, the economy's at a standard pace, and you also referenced in your testimony that first quarter GDP initial react was also from front-end loading, as you noted, imports to try to avoid tariff impacts. Also, I looked at the Atlanta Fed GDP Now model, which forecasts GDP growth for the second quarter of this year at nearly 4%, with core GDP forecast at 2%. Does that Atlanta model suggest a recession to you?
No, I would say it doesn't.
So in looking at your remarks about tariffs today, and then the ones that you made during March and April, I was looking back at...
All right, guys, we're getting nothing from this. This is just, we got to get the highlights from this after. Chris, any take on what he said in his opening statement?
No, he's on message. That's it. He's got a message. He's going to relay it. The mark of a good, in my opinion, the mark of a good Fed chair is that you stay as consistent as possible. You don't waffle on things. You don't move around. You know, his basic premise is very simple. If inflation keeps coming down, we'll cut. If inflation starts to come back up again because of tariffs, we'll hold rates where they are. You know, as much as the administration wants to get rates to come down, they made a big mistake by doing this tariffs thing a little too early. And now they're paying the price for it because, you know, there's just a lot of market uncertainty. And the funny thing is the Trump administration has said they like having uncertainty. So, like, what do you think the Fed chair is going to say? Like, yeah, like, we love uncertainty too. Like, no, the Fed is opposite of uncertainty. They want certainty so that you know that they're not going to mess things up on a monetary side. So
I think we'll get the highlight, guys, after all 6 hours of the, or 4 hours of the testimony is done, and I'll try to get like the best moments. But yeah, there's no point of.
I think the bigger thing that we need to watch out for, and this is something that I've advocated.
By the way, real quick, before you say that, Chris, AMD 138 up 7%. Congrats. I know the AMD bulls have been in this for the past 7 months, have been waiting for this moment. It is happening from 75 to 140. Congrats to you guys on AMD.
Yeah, I think the key thing to focus on is some of the regulatory changes around how banks and how they treat reserves. Like that whole thing with the SLR, the stablecoin legislation, all of these things are going towards basically pumping treasuries, right? And so when the Fed decides to cut, the long end should also start to move down, in which case now that should relieve some of the pressure that's out there.
Right.
You know, so yeah, like I said, I think as long as we keep the eye on the ball when it comes to inflation, then I think we should be okay. Like, as of right now, the economy is slowing. I don't care what Fed chair wants to say, that we're not in a recession, all that stuff. That's great that we're not in an official recession, but that doesn't mean that, you know, unemployment is not going up, because unemployment is going up, right? You're seeing property prices actually coming down in some parts of the country. So inflation is definitely on its way down. The key thing is there going to be any specific target that causes anything like serious that happens that causes inflation to come up. One of the things that could have done that was, of course, this whole thing with oil, right? With oil prices spiking because of this this whole situation in the Middle East.
Dude, oil's down 5% today.
Yeah, but luckily for us, the Trump administration has been very, very consistent that we will get involved with all sorts of, like jawboning, but in terms of like direct action, no matter how much Netanyahu wants to cry about it and complain about it, the US is not going to put boots on the ground. And today was actually a good revelation of Trump saying, no, like this shit needs to stop,
Yeah.
So
How did you think of Trump? What was your perspective on him cursing and getting mad about the ceasefire potentially being violated? Do you think he was justified in being upset?
everyone thinks that there needs to be regime change in Iran. I honestly think there needs to be regime change in Israel. I mean, if you look at Bibi Netanyahu and some of the crazies that support him, I mean, do you know there's like an ultra nationalist right wing group in his coalition that he's never really addressed? These people believe, honestly, if you go to their coalition, you can look it up. They're ultra nationalist Jewish supremacists that are in one of his coalition partners. Okay, they believe that the Israel should take over the entire of West Bank, that Israel should be an ethno state. Like that's in his party. Like those are people that support him. So I'm sorry, but this guy is the one that's a warmonger. So maybe they were right to take out some of his Iran's nuclear facilities. Totally agree that Iran shouldn't have nuclear weapons, but should Israel have nuclear weapons too? Then, like, why haven't they committed to getting rid of their nuclear weapons?
Well, I think Trump is just so fed up with both sides today that he was just like, you know what? We finally got a deal. Both sides still want to go back and forth. And then, Israel maybe wants to go on with more attacks. I mean, even he tweeted, he said in all caps, he was like, Israel, enough is enough.
Yeah.
No more bombs, So even he's just like, guys, it's done.
Bro, they did a ceasefire and then bombed them within within minutes. And it wasn't like a small amount. Like even Trump was like, they said a ceasefire and then they just bombed the shit out of him. Like, what the hell? So I'm sorry, dude. No matter what you think, the US, I am always going to side with the US. I don't care about Israel. I don't care about Iran. If both countries want to kill each other, by all means, go right ahead and do it. Okay. The one thing I will not do is support any American intervention in these freaking decade-long boondoggles that cost American lives. Not going to happen. It's not our job to police the world and all the bullshit. Like even the people that are like, oh, we need to invade Iran so that women get driver's licenses. Screw you. No, thank you. All the people that say we need to always send money to support Israel. No, screw you too. There's enough problems that we have in our own country that we need to deal with without having to subsidize your country's bullshit. Like, come on. Sorry. That's how I feel. Okay. Everyone else, listen, you could be like, oh my God, Israel high. I love Israel to death. We need to support them until the end of time. Go for it. That is your opinion. My opinion is I'm an American. My vested interests as an American are soldiers should remain in the U.S., should maintain the best interest of the United States, not Israel, not Iran, not the Middle East. So.
If Trump does get a ceasefire, he does push back the nuclear facilities with the enrichment, and he gets his big, beautiful bill passed. Is this not a pretty big string of wins for Donald Trump over the past couple
It is. It is. The fact that he's not putting boots on the ground in Iran, I am proud to call him president for being that way and saying, I'm going to stand up to beat Netanyahu, because you know what? Other presidents have caved. They've literally caved to this guy. So totally think that at the end of the day, Trump, no matter how much I'm critical of him on his economic policies in terms of foreign policy when it comes to war, totally with him. All right.
And cool. If we get the big, beautiful bill passed, I think you imagine that only further accelerates the impact on the market here.
Yeah, I mean, it should. There's a lot. It's stimulatory, so it should help out.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's what we got. Look, I don't know if this ceasefire is going to be respected, but Trump was pretty pissed off this morning on the idea that it might not be. If he ends up getting his ceasefire, I mean, you can't deny this is a pretty big political win for him.
I'll just say one thing before. I know some people like Krista has no idea what you're talking about, bro. I've seen the effects of war. Okay. You don't want to just willy-nilly be like, yeah, we need to send soldiers to the Middle East. Trust me, 20 years of this, all right? I bought into the lies myself, all right? It was not worth it, okay? None of it. These people have been chopping each other's heads off for the last 5,000 years. We ain't going to go in there and change their minds all of a sudden, all right? If they want to practice whatever they want to practice, that's on them. All right.
I think it's important for you to say Chris is a veteran, so that's when he says he has the experience. That's what he's talking about here.
As a former military man, what does it say? Hold on one second. Do you understand that Israel is your ally and Iran is the head of the evil of Axis? You want to know something? When I look back at everything, everyone always categorizes the other side as the evil of the evil axis. Okay, everyone does that. That's a fear-mongering tactic that's been used since the end of. I mean, bro, remember Vietnam was our evil of axis. We needed to get rid of the Soviet Union. We need to get rid of Vietnam. When we ended up what? How many years did we spend in Vietnam for regime change over there? The U.S., honest to God, our business is not going around there policing the world, bro.
By the way, this is what Trump ran on. He ran on the idea of not. He basically saying exactly what you said in 2016. Around, hey, we don't want to get involved with the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And so you're not saying anything that's that controversial here. The one thing I think that you're acknowledging is that, hey, we pushed back their nuclear progress by what seems like to be at least 5 years, and we get a ceasefire out of that when not getting boots on the ground. That's a big win. But the idea that we're going to completely change the regime, and install democracy, it just feels unlikely. That's going to happen.
I recommend anyone that feels like, hey, let's all go to war because it's so easy, go to Walter Reed. All right. Go spend a weekend at Walter Reed and see the ramifications of real war. All right.
Yeah.
Until you've seen literally people, you know what? I'm gonna stop because I think at this point I'm just ranting. I think I've pretty much clarified my message. War is not an easy thing to deal with. Okay, it should be the last resort, not the first option.
Yeah.
All right. Later, guys.
Chris, appreciate it. Talk later. All right, folks. Pound here, 141.70. Robinhood trying to get back to 80. It touched it like 5 times at this point, 80.60. We'll see if it can hold on to those levels. HIM's right here, 42.53. Nvidia trying to get back to 147. Tessie is down 3% on the day because it was up like 15% yesterday. S&P basically flat, but still green. Currently right now, 604.78. And that's what we got. In terms of what Chris said, dude, I don't think he said anything that controversial. I mean, he's kind of saying pretty much what Trump said. If you disagree with Chris, then you probably disagree with Trump. Trump has been saying we do not need to be involved in foreign wars. That's exactly what Chris was saying, while acknowledging that it was a good thing that we bombed Iran and got rid of some of their nuclear facilities, but also didn't get boots on the ground. Like, whatever Chris said right now is pretty much exactly what Trump has been parroting over the past couple of weeks. Let's use peace through strength to be able to show we have the power, but let's not get involved in a useless war where we're not going to change the Iranian regime. I mean, Farzad, who's from Iran, has said this over the past couple of weeks. It's up to the Iranian people if they want to actually overthrow their regime. It's not going to be us going in there trying to get the job done. Didn't work in Syria, didn't work in Libya. Like, it doesn't work. And if you want to put American lives up there to take a chance again, probably not the best idea to kind of play that out. So I would tend to agree with Chris, but I would also tend to agree with what Trump said, because it's the same idea. It's like, we don't need pointless wars, but we also do need to show that we are having the strength to be able to navigate it, which is why, again, it's really interesting. Trump didn't want to even attack Iran. And then 2 weeks ago, I guess he got some nuclear intelligence that made it seem like he had to attack, but he doesn't want to go further. And I think that's the level of restraint he's showing, which is impressive, because if you did go further, then yeah, we got full on boots on the ground. And so a lot of these political commentators over the past couple of weeks that have been saying Trump's going to get us into a war, yada, yada, like Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith, all these guys have been crying about the fact that we're getting into a war. Well, so far we're not. So far we're not. I mean, if there's a ceasefire, no, this was a military action and it's done. And I think a lot of those guys are going to have to end up acknowledging this was actually not the worst move by Trump. Ultimately, we have to see if the ceasefire is respected. But if it is, it ends up becoming a pretty big political win versus a loss, I think, for Trump. Robinhood, back to 80. S&P still holding 6,000. HIM's 42.90. Tessie 341. Dude, we're looking at an $80 Robinhood. We're looking at an $80 Robinhood. It's kind of crazy, bro. It's kind of crazy. $8 to 80. And I don't think it's just a product of bullish momentum. I think like the street's realizing, no, Robinhood's going to have a crazy Q2 earnings. They're probably going to grow more than 45%. And the rest of the year, given the diversity of their products, is only going to lead to that sustained growth. Now, next year is going to be pretty hard because we're going to have to beat like $900 million a quarter. So next year, the comps are going to get tougher. But as of now, it is definitely holding on to to some of this momentum. Let's see some of these other names. Grab, not a bad day. 3.9%, 474. Hopefully we can make our way back to $5 on Grab. So that's up a little bit. Nebius right here, still up about 9%. Great day for Nebius. Nvidia, 147 again. Reddit, great day, up 5%. Meta, 704. PayPal's up about 1.2. AppLovin's up 4.2. Intel, 3.5. Rocket Lab goes red, but it is up a lot from yesterday. Basically just below 33. Nothing too crazy. Lyft is also green, 5%. Wow. Lyft's getting a bid. And Uber back above 90. I guess Uber and Waymo is where you got the bid. And that's getting some momentum here. Yeah, is this Biden's market or is this Trump's market? Is this Biden's market or Trump's market? What do we got? Coinbase. Yeah, what happened to Coinbase, bro? What did they announce today that created an 8% move? That's pretty aggressive, bro. I don't think I saw any headline. 500,000 shares for Nvidia to get to 148. I don't think I saw any headline on Coin this morning. There has to be something. 8% is not because of Bitcoin. It's either technical or it's an upgrade or some type of news, but that's just moving right here. Circle, are we down on Circle? Are we down? Circle, 7% down. All right. Another 45% to go, right? Dude, what if the dip on Circle is just 200 and it stays there? I mean, that's very possible. But you do have Circle that is a bit red right here. Robinhood 80-40, dude. What's resistance for 80 for 81? Let's see if they give us 80. Oh, I have to buy my first shares in the 80s. I have to do it. 81 is 11,000 shares. 11,000 shares. Oh, yeah, the ceasefire. Yeah, the ceasefire helping crypto. That's helping Coinbase. Yeah, that's fair. That could be your argument right there. There you go. HSBC upgraded Broadcom to a buy on ASIC potential with a price target of 400 from 240. Oh, wow. That's a big deal for freaking Broadcom, dude. That's a big one. 400 is their price target? Holy crap. That means they're saying Broadcom's going to 2 trillion. Roundabout. That's what they're saying. 2 trillion. Amit, what stocks have the most upside potential for the rest of the year? I would love the chat to answer that. What do you think, guys? What stocks have the most upside potential for the rest of the year? Because it is kind of hard to find them. Not going to lie. Got a lot of stuff that's moving at this point. And if we get to S&P 6,500, I mean, I think the Teslas, the Hoods, the Pound, all of them still do very well. Nvidia, but they are not the same risk reward adjusted that they were even a few weeks ago, you know, because we've had a pretty good run. Definitely not in March or April. SoFi, I mean, look, if we get the rate cuts, maybe SoFi. Robin at 80.50, maybe SoFi. HIMS at this point, if we get any clarity, I do feel like getting back to 60 is not easy, but if there's enough of the uncertainty and doubt associated away from the stock, then maybe that could make its run. Question is, you know, what the narrative looks like. HIMS still really not catching a bid, bro. I mean, it's up 3% right here, but it's really not recovering from yesterday. Robinhood, are we trying to go for 81? Are we trying to go for, there's only 11,000 shares. There's only 11,000 shares, 20 cents away. I see a lot of AMDs in the chat. I would agree. AMD still undervalued. I see a lot of Oscars. Googs, yeah. I mean, I'm so curious what happens on Q2 for Google. We got to see how the street thinks of the inevitable declining growth rate of search. Robin at 10 cents away, bro. Let's see. Let's see if she can go for it. 81, 12,000 shares that are waiting. Again, this has just been one of those names that really thrives on the broader economy doing well. Any trade deals, like anything that's good for the macro is good for Hood. That's one of the other reasons I like it. Like trade deals, good for Hood. Ceasefire, good for Hood. Tariffs coming down, good for Hood. Because Hood is a bet on essentially the stock market. And yes, there's a lot of diversified views to the other parts of their business, but at the end of the day, they are a bet on the overall markets here. Which means what's good for the market is definitely good for Hood. I don't know what the news is on Next Decade. Not sure about that. That one's up 8%. VG's down about 5%, but next day, 12%. All right, there's got to be some headline there. That's helping it. Next is up Nvidia 147, HIMS 43, Tesla 342. SoundHound is up 5% today. Not bad. S&P still 604. Googs at 167. And then Hoodie's trying to go for that 81. Is anyone selling their AMD? Is anyone taking profits here on AMD? Or are we keeping it? 135.90. I have it in my portfolio. I have it. So I like this one. Reddit as well. Yeah, Reddit's also up 5% here on the day. Reddit, I don't know what the news is on Reddit, but this one's very high beta, getting some love. This was 107 2 weeks ago. This one is definitely been getting some love. Palantir, are we back to 142? We are, yeah, back to 142 on Palantir. There you go. There you go. Palantir's now been stuck in this 135, 140 range, but the New York Times has really had no substantial impact on the stock, which has been incredible. I mean, really, no one cared. I mean, like the media, I guess, cared. These like content creators on the extreme left and extreme right kind of cared. But in the stock market, everyone saw the New York Times articles like, oh, Palantir's getting a ton of deals from the government. Yeah, we're going to buy more Palantir stock. So it really wasn't the worst thing for them. Iran, is that one moving? Again, I haven't looked much into this one. Up about 8% on the day. I just don't know enough about this one. I know that people are getting excited about it. Bitcoin energy miner, well, Bitcoin miner over the energy components of the business. I think the thesis here, and again, I don't understand everything about it, but the thesis here is that there's going to be a hyperscaler that partners with them for their AI energy servicing needs. And that's where Iran's going to get a massive contract. That's what I think people are betting on. And if that's the case, might be rather exciting for them. Is it time to sell covered calls on Hood? Yeah, I don't hate it. I would just, look, they have a crypto event coming up, so I wouldn't do 85 for next week. I would do maybe 90, 95 in a month. My mom has 95s for July 3rd. I think she'll be okay on those. You just have to be a little conservative here with the strikes on events. In general, it's basically at all-time highs. 85 is all-time high, so I think anything above that all-time high is not crazy. But look, if you write a covered call at 83 and it gets to 85, you can manage that. That's not a horrible thing. Now, if your covered call is at 65 or 70 from a month ago, it's a bit underwater and you got to push it out a while. But if you're within the range, then it's not too hard to navigate it. I did not say my mom was 95. I said she has 95 covered calls for July 3rd. She sold them when they were at 77. So last time before S&P. So she collected a good amount of premium on that. I have 100 for July 18th. Do you think those are safe? Yeah. I mean, look, even if it gets to 100, rolling that is not going to be hard. So when the price has to go up so much to just get to your strike, which won't even be your break even, like rolling it is very easy to do. Now, if it goes to 130, then yeah, you're underwater. But if it stays within even 100 to 105, right now it's at 8, like you have not much to worry about there. Granted, could it go to 130, 150? Sure, that could happen. But I think slowly by surely, there's a shot, Robin, it can get to 100 by the end of the year. I just wouldn't expect it overnight. And that means covered calls in between are not the worst idea. Where's ASTS? ASTS 51. That's an all-time high on that. It hit 52 this morning. There you go. Up 1.8% on ASTS. Where's MSTR? This one today has been, this one's up 4% too. All right, so all the crypto names outside of Circle today are getting some love. Maybe Robin is getting some love because of Bitcoin getting momentum. But all of crypto has not been bad. Did I say slowly by surely? Okay, I meant to say slowly but surely. Did I say slowly by surely? Dude, what is going on with me? How do I say these things, dude? How do I... There's got to be a talent to even come up with this type of shit, bro. Like, there has to be a talent to come up with a butchered wording of the phrase to come up with a new phrase. Oh my gosh. All right, we're 8 cents away. Give us 81. Give us 81. Robinhood is trying to go on a Palantir type of run from last year. And so far, she's had a hell of a run. Give us 81. Let's normalize the 80s. Could you imagine closing above 81 today, bro? looks like it wants it, bro. Momentum's there. Got rejected right at 80.95. Let's see. Let's see. Slowly by surely sounds like a perfume. That's true. I'm saying like sure. See, this is the thing with the S and the H. I told you guys I suck at the S and the H. Surely. How do you say surely? See, I can't say, dude, the S and the H is an issue for me because I'm pronouncing Shirley like sure, like a Shirley Temple. That's not how it is, right? Surly. Shirley. Sounds like Shirley. I have an issue with the S and the H, bro. I have an issue with it. Amid, please help. I'm torn on AMD. Is it a buy? Well, if you ask the chat, you got a lot of AMD bulls that think it's a buy. Look at, I think AMD is cheap, and I think 5 years from now, data centers, GPUs, chips, that industry is exploding. And so is AMD the same risk reward that it was at 70? No, because it's at almost 140. But in 5 years, are you going to be upset you have AMD? I don't think so. So a lot of these times, it comes down to time horizon when you ask, is it a buy or not? Like, I think Grab's a buy, but you got to be patient. It's not going to 10x tomorrow. Hood, I still think is a buy, but Hood's obviously not the same risk reward that it was at 40. Nvidia, I think is absolutely a buy, but that 147 could go back to 140 easily, and you just got to be able to live with that. I think a lot of stocks are buys in this market. It's just they're up. And so you have to deal with the fact that they're up as much as they are. Yeah, you got to ask yourself here, are you a trader or investor? You really got to ask yourself when you're buying stocks at these levels. All right, we are still 30 cents away from getting there. Bart, thank you for the 60 euros. Bought 100K of UNH following your lead. Bart from Belgium. Appreciate you, Bart. I do think UNH will be fine in the next couple of years. You just bought the stock too, so you're going to get a nice little dividend there. But thank you for being here, Bart. And thank you for the super chat. Oh, we're 2 cents away. We are 2 cents away. Bart, I think you have Hood as well. I know you have Pounter, but you might have Hood. So might be a nice little day for you seeing Hood run up. 80.90. Wow. 80.98. We had 2 cents. 2 cents to get there. 2 cents. Let's see. She's this close. She's going to do it, dude. She's going to do it. She is going to do it. 2 cents away. But this is like Pounter when he was trying to get to 30 for the first time. This one's teasing us. She likes to be a tease, but she's going to do it. 80.98. Come on. There we go. 2 cents. 2 final cents. There we go. 81. 80 freaking 1. There she goes. There she goes. 81 Dolores on Robinhood. Wow. There she is. There she is. We're going to ring the bell for 81. Congrats, everybody. 81 on Hoodie. That's cool, bro. That's cool. That is freaking cool. This is, I've been really blessed to go on this journey twice. Once with Pounter, the second time with Hood. Both of them literally from 8 to 80. Both of them. I mean, so it is just a hell of a journey. And, the thing about the journey that's the most important is the relationships you make along the way, because the amount of, literally, I have a podcast with Tanner and Roy now. They're becoming really good friends of mine because of Robinhood. I would not have this friendship that I would not be as close to both of them as if we didn't decide to start collectively covering Robinhood. And there's so many people that I met in the chat, on Twitter, in person, that Robinhood brought us together, just like Pounter did for so many people in the Pounter community. And so I posted this 20 minutes ago. I said it's 10x value for the company, 8 in December 2023, 80 in June 2025, but it's 1,000x for the relationships made along the way while we all collectively covered one of the most exciting companies of our lifetime. And quite frankly, this would not be happening if Vlad and the team did not have the unbelievable amount of execution to just keep pushing forward. There's a beautiful thing about momentum, and momentum builds momentum. And if you can keep building on the momentum that you've already built, then it becomes exponential momentum. This is what we saw with Pounter last year. We had profitability, we had raised guidance, then you had S&P, then you had NASDAQ, you had all these different things. And we are not even in the S&P yet, folks. We are not even in the S&P. And so when you have all this momentum on Robinhood, the credit card, we're expanding to the UK, we're going to Singapore, advanced trading product, all these different new tools for options, AI, banking, mortgage loans, yada, yada, just compounding over and over and over again, all this new crypto stuff. And then you got a founder that's just relentless at getting this done. 3 different events in the year, constantly doing new product demos. It's just hard for the street to bet against that. It really is hard for the street to bet against that. Ray says that is so gay, but I love y'all though. Oh my gosh, dude. No, it really is a beautiful journey, bro. It's a really, I do not take it lightly. I'm very, and it's so hard to find them. Like, look, do I think Grab my price target is get to 10, Grab right here up 4%? Yes. And I would love for all of us to go on the journey of Grab getting to $10. I do not think Grab's going to go from 4 to 40. So I don't think we're going to get that 10X the way we had it for Palantir, but I still think it would be amazing if it gets to 10. But what if I'm wrong? What if Grab is stuck at like $6, $7 for the next 5 years? What if that never happens, right? Like, it is so hard to find the winners. It's so hard. Grab's been flat pretty much all year, right? It's definitely not a winner, even though I believe in it. And although Palantir and Robinhood were not winners for multiple years and then they exploded, which, maybe Grab needs a couple years for that to play out. What if it doesn't? What if it doesn't work? Like, it's just really hard to find the winners. And when you find them, again, this is that Mark Andreessen quote yesterday, 90% of the value in the public stock market comes from 2% of the companies that are listed. So when you find those winners, you kind of double down and you hold on to them. And hopefully they give you enough substance in terms of their execution to be able to keep analyzing and getting excited for different things that the company is coming out with, to cultivate the vibrance of the community. Because if Robin and Palantir were not constantly coming out with events and updates and speeches and all these different things they were doing, like the Vlad and Carp are at like a different conference every other week, like if they weren't doing that, there wouldn't be anything to analyze. But because these two are tech companies that are very committed to explaining to the world what they're building, and then they're actually building stuff and backing it up with the numbers, the growth, which is what the street cares about, it becomes undeniable. And they get to go on that journey. So, yeah, Grab definitely doesn't have enough retail love. But remember, neither did Palantir and Hood. Retail jumps in when the stock starts moving, right? So, I mean, for Grab, maybe, if the stock gets to 6, 7, you're going to get retail to come in. But the point is, it's just hard because that might not ever happen. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't. But with Palantir and Hood, it has objectively happened. It has happened. And so many of you guys got to go on the journey, whether you came in at $8 or $10 or 15 or 30 or 40, whenever you got into the story on either Hood or Palantir, it has just been incredible. It's been absolutely freaking incredible. Uber right here up 7% as well. Uber up 7%. What is the next potential 10-bagger? I don't know. I mean, I've been very lucky to have 2 10Xs in my life with Hood and Palantir. I don't know what the next 10X is, dude. I really don't. 81.15. Look at that. She's really busting above 81 now. 6.29% on the day. I say those friendships are more valuable. I agree. The friendships, I mean, the people that like Chris and Steve and Matt, Tanner, Roy, all these people I met through Palantir Robinhood. I mean, literally through Palantir. Without Palantir Robinhood, we would not really have got to know each other, become good friends. And now, we have friendships where we can talk about anything outside of just those stocks. Those are much more valuable than the gains. But the gains are pretty nice. Not going to lie. The gains are pretty freaking nice. I'm looking at my Hood position right now. And it's just, sometimes you got to just sit back and look at it and be like, damn, bro, this is why you invest. This is why you freaking invest. I mean, it's just, it's something most people on the planet will never get to experience. Being able to just sit in front of their computer and be up tens and tens of thousands of dollars in a day because they invested. Like that's just like that's something that most of the world is foreign to. They will never experience that. And oh, dude, I forgot. Hold on, let me pull up my sister's account, dude. My sister has 5,200 shares of Hood. My mom has about 2,800. My dad has about 1,000. Their accounts must be. I'm gonna be getting some text messages soon, dude. Every time my sister checks her account, it's like an all-time high. She's like, "What's happening? Why is this going up?" And I'm like, "Cause you own a stock, and the stock goes up a couple bucks, and you have a couple thousand shares. Like you're gonna be up tens of thousands of dollars." She's like, "Why is this happening?" I was like, "Cause it's up." Like, what do you mean? Why is it happening? Like my mom the other day when Robinhood was like 75, she was like in all caps with question marks. She was like, what is going on with like 15 question marks? And I was like, well, the stock went up. That's what happened. The stock went up. Powell said they are not cutting rates because forecasts show a meaningful increase in inflation this year. Okay, buddy. Okay, buddy. You had Bowman yesterday said she's ready to cut rates. You had Waller getting ready to cut rates. You got freaking Goolsby ready to cut rates. We're going to freaking cut these rates, bro. Eric says, my portfolio swings more in one day than half a year's worth of salary. Yeah, dude. I mean, like, it is crazy to experience that. It is crazy to experience that. But this is what happens when you invest and you actually allocate capital and you end up picking the right companies, which again, I want to keep stressing. Picking the right ones are hard. And the game that we are all playing is, can we beat the market by individually picking a HIMS or an AMD or a SoFi, a Google, a Grab, a Reddit, a Palantir, a Hood? And it's just not easy. And it seems a bit easier over the past couple of years because there's all these new resources, collective due diligence. FinTwit is finding these gems like Oscar, all this stuff. And so we're really doing this as a community. But in the broad scheme of things, this is one of the hardest things to do. It's why Stanley Druckenmiller, Warren Buffett, Howard Marks, we look up to them so much because they've done it consistently over a lifetime, compounding at minimum. All of them are doing about 20% a year, and it's you got to be a good stock picker to do that, and it's not easy. So sometimes you got to just sit back and realize that if you've been able to do it on even one name, it really does mean a lot. Robin right here, 81.27. We did hit 81.34. That one's still up 6.5% on the day. I'm able to retire comfortably now off of Palantir. It's life-changing. I would have had to be 65 and struggle. Now I'm 7 figures and retiring at 60. Yeah, dude. It's and me hearing that is incredible. I can't imagine what Alex Karp feels when he hears that, because ultimately he's responsible for being able to get you an early retirement. Like, that's got to be crazy for him to experience. But that's the beauty of America as well. When you have an idea and you turn it into something that's valuable and you create value for everyone. And this is what Chris was saying. It's like, like the whole idea that billionaires are evil. It's like, no, they've just created a lot of value and you can participate in their value creation. You got to take some risk. You got to buy some stock. You got to invest in some startups. You got to put your capital to work and give them the risk to, when whoever gave Vlad $5 million back in 2013 to build Robinhood, Vlad was a kid in college. They had to trust that this kid would figure it out. And boy, did he figure it out. What's the market cap now? Market cap, 71 billion. But that's the beauty of this country. You give them a shot and you can retire early just by believing in these different assets that have a chance to gain momentum. Where is fear and greed? That's a good question. Fear and greed is at 57 on greed. 57 on greed. So we were back in greed. I think we were neutral a couple of days ago, but we were back on greed. Did you finally buy Google? I have Google. I already have Google. I haven't bought more Google, but I have it. I might buy more before Q2. I'm just really nervous, bro, that their search growth is going to decline again, which it will. Objectively, we know it's not going to come in at 13.8%. It's going to decline for the 6th quarter in a row, 1.5 years of declines. And I just wonder how the market's going to interpret that. So I don't think that's going to mess up the earnings, but that's definitely going to be like the thing that the market is annoyed by. And that's my fear right now on Google. But I have it. And if they have a crappy earnings, my calls are completely cooked. And so I think at that point I sell after Q2, at least my calls, if they get hit that bad. If Apple buys Perplexity, I don't think that, we already know Google's not going to be the default search engine on Apple anymore. We know that's coming. So I think the market's priced that in. I think if they buy Perplexity, that's not necessarily the worst thing for Google. I think Google's got to figure out how they can communicate to the market that Gemini is going to take market share from ChatGPT. Speaking of ChatGPT, guys, take a look at this, bro. Take a look at this. App Store downloads in the past 28 days. ChatGPT, 29 million. What's the comparable? Add TikTok, add Facebook, add Instagram, add X together, 32 million. 4 of the biggest social networks did barely 3 million more downloads above one company called ChatGPT. I mean, this is not a joke, bro. It's not a joke anymore. Robin at 8150. And this is what scares me for Google, because that growth's not slowing down. That doesn't mean Google's dead. It just means the market potential on why people would be super excited about Google theoretically could be suffering from that narrative. And so it's not just because it's newer, bro. Just because it's a newer app does not mean that that's the reason it's getting more downloads. People are active. If that's the case, why isn't Grok up there? Grok's new. Gemini's new. Why isn't Grok and Gemini getting 29 million downloads in a month? You know, like it's because it's a product that has figured out how to gain mainstream distribution, and they're winning when it comes to AI. And again, that's not bearish Google. That is bearish the sentiment around search, which doesn't necessarily mean Google's earnings suffer. Google's earnings growth is going to be fine the next couple of years, which is why their multiple they're trading at is ridiculous. But just because the stock has good earnings doesn't mean their narrative is going to be in place. We've seen this time and time again. So, I mean, that UNH could struggle through that. UNH is going to have great earnings, but their narrative might suck, and UNH might be flat as well. So it's one of the, you could have you could have a bad narrative and good earnings, and still your narrative hurts you, or you could have good earnings and a bad narrative, and that also hurts you as well. Like, all these things are so nuanced to try to understand, and I think that is the risk that we have with Google right now. Palantir 141. Robin is trying to go for 81, 82. Got rejected at 81.74. Let me check resistance at 82. For those asking how do you check resistance on Robinhood, you click the yellow arrow button near the price. And then if you have Robinhood Gold, you can then see the bid and the ask order book flow. 82 is 14,000 shares. That's it. 14,000 shares. It's not that crazy. It's not that crazy we can get there. When Amit says a stock price halfway through a sentence is peak AK media. Dude, there's so much to say. We got to analyze the stock prices while we're getting through a sentence. That's where my debate background comes in. I'm able to like keep the thought in my mind, even if I'm like distracted for a couple seconds. But when you have all these prices moving in different directions, you got to kind of see how they're playing out. Rocket Lab 33. Are we still there? Rocket Lab 33. So yeah, in the context of ChatGPT and Google, look, I'm still super bullish Google. I think it'll be okay, but this is not something like that you can ignore. You just can't. And this is why Sam Altman was saying that he thinks Meta might be feeling Facebook and Instagram are threatened by ChatGPT. Because at the end of the day, it's about time that's spent. And if you're spending more time on GPT and potentially some AI social network that OpenAI comes out with, I mean, there's so many different ways they can take it versus Facebook and Instagram, you're not seeing enough ads. Same thing with Google. If you're spending more searches on ChatGPT, you're not going to be seeing as many ads when you're searching on Google. And that is the defining variable on how the street is ultimately going to think on where the growth is going to come from. Tesla is down. Tesla's down 3%. All right, so Tesla might go below 340. Again, big run yesterday after robotaxis. This one might chill out right here. But Robinhood kind of leading the way, up 8%, up 6%. And then AMD also still a great day, down from 138, but currently at 136. I don't have any hood options anymore. I sold all my hood options. I told you guys that like a month ago. I'm out of hood options. Honestly, if I kept them, I'd be up a lot more. But I turned all of it into stock. So I didn't want to deal with the risk, bro. At some point, I had to risk mitigate as well against everything we had going on. I was in those options for basically 2 years. They gained a lot of their value. It was time to kind of move on. So, and also there was only like another 15 to 20,000 left that I really could have recognized if I'd waited. And I still wouldn't. I would have had to wait because there's spreads. I would have had to wait till at least November, December this year to maximize the full value. So just getting the cash and then being able to put it into hood stock itself was better. But yeah, no more options on it. What do we think about Nike earnings this week? I think it depends on China and what they're going to say about China. We do have potentially a trade deal with them, which was kind of solidified, but I don't think the market believes in it yet at all. 60.90 here. Look, I don't know enough about their earnings, or I don't know enough about the valuation. I do know their earnings were abysmal last quarter. It was really disgusting. And China continued to be the headwind. And the only reason the stock pumped last time is because the expectations were so bad because everyone basically wrote off Nike for dead and they beat expectations. I don't know if that's the same setup going into this. I do know Bill Ackman is loaded up to the tune of a couple $2 billion on Nike. So you would imagine that he sees something that we don't see, but not sure about this one. Strike on my Google options is 150, but I bought them when Google was 190. So Google really needs to be at 210 for me to really even break even on those options. What about Grab? How's Grab doing? Grab right here, 476. This one, it is nice that it's holding above the 200-day. If it fell below the 200-day, so like that 430, 440 range, that would be pretty ugly for grab. So it is nice that it's holding above those levels right here. $5 resistance on grab is 81,000 shares. So hopefully it can just take little baby steps and get above those levels. Is there a good Google call spread at the moment? All right, so let's do this together. Let's see. So let's see. Let's give ourselves a lot of time. Let's go to December 2027. Let's give ourselves a ton of time. Okay. And then let's be a bit conservative. Google right here is at 167. I feel like 220 by December 2027 shouldn't be crazy. And if we buy that call and let's sell the 240 against it. So realistically, we're asking Google to be 240 by December 2027. That spread is a $20 spread. Yeah, that's a 5X. That's a 5X. So if you buy the 220 and sell the 240 against it, it's costing you at the moment $4.50. You're probably gonna have to pay $5 to get filled. It's a $20 spread. So 20 divided by 5, that's a 4X. If you get to pay $4.70, which I think you can get filled at $4.70. Let me just see if it works. Then that's about a 4.7X. Which is not crazy, dude. That means Google, what, 240 minus 167 divided by 167. That's a 43% move in 2.5 years on a stock that people already think fair value is closer to 220 right now. If you put a 20 times multiple versus a 15 times multiple. So if we buy the, and we have 2.5 years, we buy the 220, we sell the 240. Yeah, you could get filled at 475 right now. 475, you can get filled. And again, it's a $20 spread, so your max profit right there is $15.25. I'm not buying this spread, but this is the point. Like, Google is pretty asymmetric right here. If you have the patience of waiting 2.5 years, if the stock goes up 40%, which most people think it shouldn't be trading at these levels right now, it's a 5X. But the risk is, what if in 2.5 years, there's a really big issue with Google, right? That's the problem here. Robin at 81.40. And that's what we're going to have to see. Tesla is down 2%. BBAI, I don't know if there's any deal that they got from the government or something, but that's up 16% right now. Let's see if I can find something on why. This one is shorted a lot. Lilly, how's Lilly doing? Lilly, 769. Well, that's what Chris was saying. Chris was saying that Hims' issue is not Novo, it's Lilly. And you can listen to him in the market close yesterday, but basically he was saying the drug that Lilly creates is a bigger issue in terms of how Hims has to compete versus the Novo version of it, because Lilly's brand is getting a lot more momentum. What is it? Manjaro is Novo, right? Manjaro is Novo, and Lilly has the other one that starts with a Z, Zepbound. I think his argument was Zepbound is just getting a lot more traction than Manjaro. Isn't Manjaro a mountain, bro? Isn't there something called Mount Manjaro? Or is that Kilimanjaro? What am I thinking? Oh, yeah, Kilimanjaro. Sorry, that's a volcano. No, they're both. Oh, they're both. Okay, so Novo is Wegovy. You're right. Sorry. Novo is Wegovy. So when you compare the Wegovy sales to Manjaro, which is basically what Chris was talking about yesterday, they have Manjaro and Zepbound. Wow. Okay. So I think that's why Chris was focusing on Lilly as the bigger issue than Novo at this point. Dude, I don't take the fat shot drugs, okay? I don't know. I don't take the fat shot drugs. I've never got into it. Oh, but yeah, you got a good point, Lunar. Lilly's coming out with the oral GLPs. That is correct. That was why their stock was up like 15% last month, the day when they announced it. Dude, if you can take a pill and lose weight, I mean, that's pretty, yeah, dude, that shit's going to sell like hotcakes, bro. So I guess the broader question for Hims is then, if we forget about Wegovy and we talk about Lilly, and then we talk about the oral version of GLP, can they compete with that? And I don't know, but quite frankly, I feel like none of us should care, because the thesis is not GLP for Lilly, for Hims, right? The thesis is like everything else. All the other parts of telehealth operations, consumer brand, loyalty, ED, hair loss, all these different things they're coming up with, not Lilly or not weight loss. Now, if that is the thesis, then, which a lot of the HIMSS bulls have been saying that's the cherry on top. But if that's the thesis, if your thesis is weight loss, then that obviously could be an issue. Cheesecake Factory, all-time highs, 61.08. This one also pays a dividend, Cheesecake Factory. So this one having a great year. The stock itself is up year to date 26%, and it pays a divvy. Not bad. Yeah, Cheesecake, not a bad one. That one hasn't really been a mover over the past years, but looks like they've turned things around, and that one's getting some momentum. Robinhood right here, 81.41 currently right now. Yeah, Jeremy is heavy on cake, right? Hey, he's heavy on cake and AMD. So those two picks working very well for Mr. Jeremy. Cake and AMD, I think, were some of his big convictions. I think Jeremy's like one of the main people that started talking about AMD, that got everyone interested in it, probably about like 8 months ago. And so AMD beginning to work out right here. All right, let me see Big Bear AI. Let me see if there's any news on this. BBAI. Let's see. No, there's no news, dude. This is all technical. There's no headline. The only headline I have is Vanguard increased their stake by 9.2%. But Vanguard buys a lot of companies, so that's not necessarily a reason. I feel like it's more technical there on that one. Elf as well. Is Elf moving? Oh no, well Jeremy's big on Elf. Well, Jeremy's big on Elf for like a while. He was this thing like single digits. $7-8. He liked Elf. Elf right here, 123. Apple 201, Bitcoin 105. And then Nvidia is breaking over 147. We didn't get to 148 yet, but we are breaking a little bit above that. Currently right now, Uber is waiting $2 away from all-time highs. Dude, see, here's the thing. Tesla Robotaxi is super bullish, but Uber Waymo, if they keep putting out these partnerships, I mean, again, it's just a question of scale and speed, and Uber and Waymo are moving faster. But if Tesla has the right product a year from now and they have more scale, it is going to be pretty exciting to see all of them go at it and see this play out. But Uber getting a lot of love right here on this Atlanta Waymo partnership. Where is the lab of rockets? Rocket Lab is 33. Wow, Rocket Lab breaking above 33. 34 resistance is 26,000 shares. 26,000 for Rocket Lab. Dude, so far, not a bad year. Going into basically the midpoint of the year at this point, we are seeing a decent chunk of momentum. Take a look at this chart right here. This is the third biggest annual inflow for stocks in history. 360 billion. Third largest annual inflow going into 2025. And there's still 7 trillion on the sidelines. There's still 7 trillion waiting to be allocated. So we're going to have to see. We're really going to have to see how much money could be coming into the markets. Hoodie, 8160. Again, only 12,000 shares at 82. So she might try. She might try for it. All right, let me see what other headlines we have going on. Let's see. EU readies retaliatory tariffs to secure a better trade deal with Trump. Okay, that doesn't matter. They're going to get to a deal eventually. So even if they have retaliatory tariffs, that'll be negotiated. Powell says as long as the economy is strong, we can take a little bit of a pause here. Powell says we are at higher levels of rates, significantly more room to cut than there was when rates were near zero. Well, obviously, there was no room to cut when rates were zero. Like obviously, there's room to cut, right? We're at 4.5%. We haven't tuned into the. Let's see what they're saying in the testimony. I want to see him go back and forth with Warren. That's what I want to see. Let's see if there's any real questions they try to get him on.
Inflation shock. We have to be careful about that. And so, I think we're just trying to be careful and cautious, and we really think that's the best thing we can do for the people that we serve. If that happens, we need to be there for it. And so, we're in a difficult situation in deciding exactly when to move. But again, if we continue to see inflation come in, and not prove up at the higher levels than we expect, then that would matter for our decision making.
Chairman. Okay, so he's basically been saying the exact same thing he was saying before. Yeah, you're right. It's not a Senate hearing, so Warren's not going to be there. You're right. All right, so we're probably not going to get any senators that are super aggressive on this. I'll try to get the best highlights of the Senate, or not the Senate, but the overall testimony by the market close, and then we'll look at some of them. But we just tuned in randomly. He's saying the same thing. He's like, hey, we're going to be cautious on inflation. So really, we're not getting anything too different right there. Robinhood, she's trying to go for 82. Dude, if we see 82 today, if we get an 82, I mean, 80 in and of itself was incredible. Then 81 was nice. If we can get above that, and then if the dip is back to like 78, 80, and we're kind of done with the early 70s, it's not bad. It's not bad at all. Mr. Nobody, thank you for the $2 super chat. Admit, we discuss all things EV except Rivian. The only problem with Rivian is that they are not profitable yet on a GAAP basis. Rivian right here up 1%. I like Rivian. I don't think it's a horrible company. I do think that at the end of the day, Rivian is a car company. Tesla's a tech company that sells cars. And if you're going to buy a car company, you got to be ready to deal with car company multiples, auto multiples, right? So Rivian's just not the most exciting to me until they become profitable. I think by Q3, that's when they're expected to turn over a GAAP profit. I think they're already on a gross basis, they're profitable, not on a GAAP basis. But yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, Rivian's been stuck in this $10, $15 range for a long time. There's just not a big narrative around them that's super exciting. I don't even know if their covered call premiums are good. I can check that. But the reason we talk about Tesla so much is because it's not just the car company, right? There's just so many other layers to it. 81.70 on Hoodie. She got to 81.88. It feels like it's there. There's a shot to get above it. Nubank's up 7% as well. Yeah, that's great for Tanner's ETF. Nubank up 7%. That one also not doing too bad. When rate cuts happen to SoFi rocket, I think so. I think SoFi is just inching to get into that $18, $20 range, and rate cuts would be the catalyst. Granted, I think it should happen without rate cuts, but again, this is the issue with SoFi, bro. Like, this is the issue with SoFi. There's just, the narrative is not there that's that exciting. It's just not. And if rate cuts is the only reason it's going to pump, then that just means no one cares about it outside of them being able to issue more loans, which again is just not the most exciting idea. So I think from a stock perspective, it's undeniable that there are some major differences between how SoFi is perceived by the market and like the other financial technology companies that have really been pushing the envelope when it comes to innovation. And that perception is just getting them a higher multiple. But nonetheless, I do think SoFi, $20 by the end of the year is not crazy to imagine. It's probably a decent risk reward right here. And rate cuts would push it over the edge. Spotify, all-time highs. Dude, this one's crazy. I got this one wrong. I thought Spotify was not going to really become as big as they were. I thought they paid too much to the record labels. I thought they had no bargaining power with the record labels. Meanwhile, the record labels need them more than they need the record labels. Like, they need the music, but the record labels need the distribution. And quite frankly, distribution is all that matters. That's it. Distribution is all that matters. In this economy, it's not about money. It's just not. It's not even about the content. It's about, can you get people to see the content? Can you distribute the content? And technology is what enables distribution. And the record labels have no technology. They have Beyonce IP, Michael Jackson IP, Jay-Z IP, Eminem IP, Bruno Mars IP. It's like, okay, you got a lot of IP, but if that algorithm doesn't recommend those new songs, who's going to listen to it? And so there is a very definitive moat in regards to how Spotify has created their distribution, and they keep growing their users every quarter, which is why they're getting this momentum. Apple Music hasn't killed them. Amazon Music hasn't killed them. YouTube Music hasn't killed them. I mean, you would think it's a music app. You would think it could be replicated, but there is something about, I mean, put in the chat if you use Spotify. There's people, like, it's religious to some people. They will never leave their Spotify because of the way the algorithms already understand their music preferences. I don't care about music that much. Like, I listen to music, but I switched from Spotify to YouTube Music because I get YouTube Music for free with YouTube Premium, and I was just like, well, I don't really care about my playlists. I don't give a shit. It's just music. But some people really care about their music, and they will never leave the platform because they have all their memories encapsulated within all these playlists. That, yeah, like Zach, I've used this since 2011. Like, you're not going to leave Spotify at that point. This is what I was trying to say about Robinhood, bro, when we were having our debates in the early days. Like, I was trying to say, guys, the UX on this company, these were the initial debates I had with Tanner. The UX on the user experience on Robinhood is something we just cannot deny. And, back then, that was the idea, was it can just be commoditized. It's like, it can't. Schwab, Fidelity would have done it by now. Spotify family plan. Yeah. I mean, dude, the reason I got onto Spotify was because they gave me Hulu and Spotify for $5 a month. They lost so much money, but they gained so many users by charging them $5 a month. And now if they charge you $20 a month, there's going to be very little churn on Spotify. If they really said, hey, $20 a month instead of 10 or 15, most people would say, all right, whatever. Like, it's my music. I listen to it every day. And so you got people that are probably just not going to leave. Spotify algorithm is from another world. Yeah, again, I don't use it, but I do know YouTube Music is not. Dude, YouTube Music is a pretty shitty. It's good YouTube Music, but it's not like, it's not anything that special. They don't really care about it that much, and they shouldn't, right? Because it's not that big of a driver for them. But it still is a product that for Spotify does everything. Dude, if anyone wants to watch the earliest debate that I did on Robinhood, this is it, baby. Robinhood versus SoFi, June 30th, 2023. Tanner and I went at it. We were going back and forth. So this was a fun one from so long ago. This is when I was trying to convince Tanner about the UI stuff in this one. And then a year later, he was like, all right, I'm in. But these were those early debates that we were having on Hoodie. Dude, I look like a dweeb, bro. I still look like a dweeb, but I look like a dweeb. I was a little skinnier, though. You can tell. Look at this. Look at this dweeb trying to explain Robinhood. I'm just going to go to a random part. I'm going to go to a random part and see what I'm saying. Let's just see what this sounds like. It happened, and hundreds of millions of websites exist, or apps or products on the internet that leverage some type of content to be able to create attention. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying there. Let's see here. Austin, Texas, and said, hey, you want to play around with it? You want to see how I'm finding the oil drills? Like, yeah, I would be so stoked. I would be excited. I would be excited to use Snowflake or Databricks, even though look at this. I'm talking about Snowflake for some reason. I don't know. I'll link that. You guys can watch it, but it was that first initial conversation we had on Hood. Bro looks like he's in a frat. Oh my gosh. Goodness gracious, bro. All right, 8167. Can we get to 82? Can we finally get there? Can we make it happen? 8165. Every random point is a Mitt talking. To be fair, he invited me on the channel to like have me pitch Robinhood. So I did most of the talking. But the point is, these consumer apps that have a moat in regards to user experience, whether it's a Spotify, a Robinhood, whatever, we can't deny in this day and age, people like using the thing that they like using, and it's hard for them to switch. And for them to switch, they have to have a real reason. And that's why when I see all these other brokerages, like, I'm just like, dude, like, if you're not going to get people to leave Robinhood, then, and you're not Schwab or Fidelity, then where's the exciting, narrative here? Same as Spotify. If you want to be a music app, you're not going to get people to leave Spotify. You're probably not going to get people to leave Amazon, YouTube Music. So how are you going to really meaningfully, get users to a different area? Yeah, well, to an extent, I guess you could say with Google search, but that is where we're actually seeing people leave. That's the scary part, right? Like, yeah, Google search, hard to be disrupted, but it's being disrupted. And if that only continues, then that is where there could be a narrative shift. All right, 8163. Let's see if we can get above some of these levels. So HIMS is still at 43, Rocket Lab 3340. Rocket Lab trying to break above 3350 currently right now. Nvidia still stuck at 147, Tessie 342. Let's see if we can get some other updates across the market, if there's any other macro stuff going on. Iran, Israel has been relatively silent ever since Trump cursed in the morning. Nothing from there. Let's go to the Powell testimony, see what he's saying there.
Of kids. So that means that we need other people, right? So over the next decade, based on the current trends that I just explained to you and that you just reiterated, will there be enough workers to fulfill the labor needs of our economy between 2025 and 2035?
So I think labor economists do observe the phenomenon you're talking about, which is demand for labor going to be met by the domestic population, the native-born population? And the answer appears to be probably not over the next 10 years.
And then what about if we do not have that labor force over the next 10 years? What happens?
So many things will happen. You can see a big increase in productivity, which would mean we don't need as many workers. For example, artificial intelligence could be implemented in a way that creates widespread productivity gains. I wouldn't count on that, but it's a possibility.
You would not? You would not count on that?
I wouldn't count on it.
You would not?
No, I mean, I think there'll
not?
be gains because with productivity enhancing things, they typically take longer to be implemented, and then it takes a while for the gains to be shown. I think in the case of artificial intelligence, those gains are coming, but they may take longer or be less in the beginning than expected.
And during the time that those changes happen, then what happens? Our economy doesn't grow. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but I mean, those who make immigration policy are entitled to weigh these factors. You know, we can report on what happens, but it's really not our job.
I understand it's not. I just want to hear what you're thinking, what's your expertise based on those immigration laws that we're implementing right now. The last one, because I only have 30 seconds. Do you think that with everything that we have talked about, do you think that we can continue remaining, or the United States economy can continue being the #1 economy in the world, and that we could compete if we were to have the immigration laws that we have right now?
I think you could have, the highest per capita earnings, but if you're talking about the aggregate output, then, population growth may be a constraint.
And which one of the two is more important?
Gentleman's time has expired.
Good question.
Well, you can, I think
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
All right.
Let me turn to the
Chairman.
ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Mr. Himes, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome, Chairman Powell. Let me start by thanking you for your careful keeping in your lane and steering clear of fiscal policy, and in particular for your stalwart defense of independent monetary policy. You're getting pressure from very powerful places and lots of kibitzing from lots of members on the interest rate question, and most know better that our independent monetary policy is the very bedrock of our economy. So thank you for that. Mr. Chairman, I want to talk just a little bit about some of the technical matters associated with energy prices and inflation, because obviously turmoil in the Middle East has sent oil prices swinging wildly, with West Texas Intermediate in the last month or so being anywhere between $61 and $75 a barrel. We recently saw the Iranian parliament vote to close the Strait of Hormuz, which currently handles around 20 million barrels a day, a fifth of global demand, and a little bit more in terms of natural gas. Chair Powell, you said last week that conflict in the Middle East in the 1970s resulted in very large inflation shocks. In contrast to the 1970s, today the United States does not import most of its energy. We call ourselves energy self-sufficient on a net basis. But I hear the argument made that I think is wrong, that because we're energy self-sufficient, somehow we are insulated from global energy market prices. Can you comment on that? Is there any validity to the notion that we are not, American consumers of energy are not subject to global swings in energy prices?
Yeah, so the price of oil is set globally, right? And I think if you go back a few years, the thought was that when we had a natural shock absorber, which is that we would just drill more. And that we would, if prices went up, we would drill more. And so you wouldn't have these sustained price shocks that we had during the 1970s and the original OPEC era. I think that is actually in question now because, the oil industry in the U.S. is being much more careful and focused on return on investment than they were, having been burned with overcapacity.
Right. And I mean, yeah, in the long run, you can invest in additional extraction technologies, but this does not respond to day-to-day spot prices. So
Not quickly.
the point
no.
I'm trying to make is that the conflict in the Middle East, if it resulted in $120 barrel oil, which is where oil was in 2022, that would have a fairly substantial inflationary impact on the American household. Is that correct?
We would certainly feel that, and as we discussed earlier, there's a lot of lore around looking through oil price shocks, but that depends on the facts and circumstances.
What, as a technical matter, we tend to refer to CPI, which is a basket of goods, and we measure the price changes. Roughly speaking, what percentage of that basket is comprised of energy?
I don't have that on the top of my head. It's much less than it was, of course. And oil consumption is much less than it was in the 70s as a percent of GDP.
But energy includes natural gas and gasoline, and that's it's a meaningful portion of the.
Yes, although of course we have more natural gas than we have so much natural gas, so that'll always be there for us.
So none of us can predict what's going to happen in the Middle East in an hour, much less in a week or a month or a year. But as a technical matter, at what price for a barrel of oil does the American household begin to feel inflationary effects? So we're at $75 a barrel roughly right now. At what price point does the American household begin to feel some inflationary effects?
I don't want to throw out a number. I think we're frankly, it's too early to say that something like that's going to happen. And I know that, but I wouldn't want to throw out a specific number. If prices went up materially, people would feel that.
Okay.
All right. I don't know what we're getting from that. Robinhood trying to go for 82. She's trying to go for 82. 5 cents. Come on. We got rejected last time at 81.98. 3 cents away. There's 12,000 shares. It is time. There you go. 82 Dolores on Mr. Robin Hoodie from $8.20 2 years ago to $82. Folks, it's one of those days. Sorry if it's annoying, but we got to ring the bell 3 times in a row. Congrats, everybody, for Robinhood. We got Mr. Tanner in the chat. There you go. Tanner, bro. It's happening. It is freaking happening. 82. This is kind of crazy, bro. It's kind of freaking crazy. Yeah, let me text my sister to look at her account. Let me text her. I'm going to text her right now. Let's see what she said. I don't know. She's probably at work. She probably hasn't even looked at it. By the way, I just got a text from Mr. Triple V. It's a 5X for Tanner. I love it. Congrats, man. Absolutely incredible. Tanner, I was just saying it's the relationships that you, Roy, and I got to form from covering the company, because we've obviously gotten a lot closer, got to travel together because of covering the company. It's super cool, dude. Super, super freaking cool. Very, very grateful for it. Triple V just texted. He said, "Good day. I'm up 40 million." So Triple V does have quite a bit of Robinhood. I think he has 4.2 million shares or something. So yeah, definitely not a bad day for him. Robinhood right there, 81.81. Absolutely incredible. I think we'll get back above 82. Let's see resistance at 83 and see if we have a shot for it. But it's definitely showing the momentum to get there. 83 is 7,000 shares, guys. It's nothing. I mean, if the volume comes in, 7,000 shares, we're crossing 83. And quite frankly, if you look at a chart on a historical basis, 85 is that all-time high that we have to get through. Look at this chart, bro. Look at this chart. This is why patience matters. You could have bought it that high and it comes back down and you just have to wait. Look at that. From 2021 to 2024, you just had to wait. You had to accumulate and wait. And if it was a good company, imagine getting to accumulate for those 3 years when every day the stock would maybe move a couple cents from $6 to $9. And now it's at 81. I mean, this is the beauty of the market. If it's a generational company, it's a company that can turn things around, recover from a disaster that was GameStop. You can have a moment where you see a 10x in about 2 years and really see the value of this company exponentially begin to expand. And we're not in the S&P yet. We're not in the S&P. Imagine if all these funds have to start buying our shares when it's like $85 or $95. Imagine when the market cap's closer to maybe 100 billion or 95 billion and the S&P has to start buying shares, or all these funds and the S&P has to start buying. I mean, that's pretty incredible. It's pretty freaking incredible. I am up 40 million Zimbabwe dollars. Wait, $1 to Zimbabwe. $1 is 322 Zimbabwe dollars. Okay, so on the day, that's incredible. On the day, overall portfolio right here is up 25K. So 25 times 300. What is that? I'm up 7.5 million Zimbabwe dollars right now. You know what? I'm just going to start saying my daily movements in Zimbabwe dollars, because why not? It's more inclusive to other currencies. You know, we talk about them in our discussion. We don't isolate the currencies from our discussions around finance. I'm just going to start speaking in Zimbabwe dollars, because that is not too bad. Not too bad at all. Triple V in Zimbabwe is up like 7 billion. Oh my gosh. How much are you up in Bitcoin terms? That's another good way to frame it. Yo, the Indonesian one, the rupee in Indonesia, bro. I was looking at GoTo's financials the other day. They're like, oh, we did 700 trillion in revenue. I was like, what do you mean 700 trillion? What are you talking about? Then I looked at the currency. I was like, what is going on here? Their shit is definitely inflated. Indonesian dollar to USD. Yeah, dude, it's aggressive in terms of how, look at this. One of their dollars is worth 0.00061 of a United States dollar. And the one that's crazy that I found out over the weekend is 1 USD to Iranian rial. 42,000 Iranian rials are equal to $1. Like, you pay with millions inside of, I was watching this vlogger who was in Iran who was like buying stuff from the local stores, and they don't even say 2 million. They just say $2, because 2 million is basically $2. And so it's like, they don't even say the million part anymore, because everyone knows that, like, you take off the other zeros, you get back to a normal number. But the fact that those other zeros are there is crazy. So, I mean, look, this is why JPOW cares so much about inflation, but still, even if you care this much about inflation, I don't think we're going to turn into Zimbabwe or Iran anytime soon. But the other countries around the world that do have those problems, you know, this is why they love the USD. They love the reserve currency. SharpLink Gaming buys 12,000 ETH. Really? They're doubling down on ETH? It's up 6%. I don't know, bro. I don't know if doubling down on ETH is the best idea here. I mean, they diluted the crap out of shareholders with 69 million shares, which is why the stock's down so much. I mean, look, Ethereum could run, and then that could be their bull case, but this is one of the first companies that's actually engaged in a Ethereum treasury, so they're betting pretty heavy that Ethereum can do its thing. Wow, dude, 82. We got to 82. We got to freaking 82. It's incredible, man. That's so incredible. Now, we got to have a good Q2 to maintain this, but we have the crypto event coming up, and we have the earnings, which my projections are showing us 40% growth. Also, we're going to get June updates, like the month to color June update. They don't give the exact numbers in June, but they give you like a color of what it looks like. I think in a couple of days, they're going to show us what June's metrics look like. And so once we get those, we can easily figure out what Q2 is probably going to look like. And I think right now it's at around 920 million. At least that's like my preliminary estimates. AMBA, that's a chip maker. They have acquisition rumors. That one, Ambarella up 19%. What's their market cap? 2.6 billion. Has anyone heard of this before? Ambarella engages in the development of low power system on a chip, or SoC, semiconductors and software edge artificial intelligence. Ambarella. Okay, that one's up. Watching Robinhood stock is like watching porn for a minute. Oh my gosh. Dude, you can't tell me stock up 7% on the day that you're heavy in isn't better than any other type of entertainment that one could engage in. I mean, dude, if I could see, dude, like seeing your stocks pump 7% on the day, it has to be like the great, like there are people right now that are going about their lives, you know, getting coffee, going to work, and they're just like, they probably don't even know Robinhood's moving because they don't look at their portfolio every day like us because we're crazy. And then they take a look at their portfolio, like my sister, she probably hasn't even looked at it all day. And she's going to see it in a couple hours. And she's going to be like, oh, I'm up like 20, 30 grand, which is, you know, in a day, a lot more than what she would make in whatever, a couple months worth of salary. So it's just crazy, bro. It's a crazy experience. Again, it is a bull market. I get it. But we've talked about this in depth for the past couple of years, why all the macro dynamics are pointing to a continuation of that bull market. So everyone's like, oh, this is just bull market stuff. It's like, dude, yeah, this is bull market stuff because it's a bull market. Like all these bears are be like, well, it's just bull market stuff. It's like, yeah, because it's a bull market. Like, of course, like if it was a bear market, then we would see bear market stuff. And do I think there's froth in the market? Of course, there's plenty of froth. But that doesn't mean you deny the momentum on certain names that deserve that momentum. And I would say Robinhood deserves the momentum. Should we all leave the room a bit? Oh my gosh, dude. No, you guys have to stay in the room because all of us are seeing this journey happen together, and it's pretty awesome. SoFi's resistance is 150,000 shares for SoFi at 16. Flavio says take profits. I mean, look, that is something that should be reiterated. If you want to take some profits, take some profits because if Robinhood goes right back down to 65, you know, and you could have sold at 81, then you take some profits. Look, covered calls, I think, we've talked about a lot on the channel. I think that's a way to not have to take profits, but to still generate premium. If you're underwater on some covered calls, you can roll them. It's not the craziest thing in the world. But if you have no calls on your shares and you want to, you have 5,000 shares, you want to sell 1,000, take some profits, it's not crazy. It's not. I mean, look, speaking of taking profits, we got Roy, who just tweeted that he sold some Palantir. So 300 shares of Palantir at 141, recognized a profit of $38,000. He said, I sold some Palantir today to fund our new Tesla as we wanted to keep our debt load the same. I'm still in Palantir, but it felt like the right move for us. We'll enjoy most of the fruit of our investing in retirement, but this is a little taste for my wife right now. There you go. He's buying a Tesla, wants to take some profits. So this is why we invest at the end of the day. I'm not selling because I just think this thing's going higher this year. Like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's going higher this year. I can hedge easily with covered calls, and I really do think that the crypto event plus Q2 plus all-time highs on the S&P plus trade deals plus Middle Eastern stability plus rates coming down, that's plus S&P inclusion, like all that together is enough to probably get us to 100. Now, would that multiple be aggressive? Yeah, but if they can put up the growth in Q2 of upwards of 45-50%, you can't say they're not growing. You know, you can't say it's just meme stock stuff because there's real catalyst there. And you know, this is the thing about Palantir that I underestimated last year. When these tech companies get scale and they grow, we underestimate how much they can grow. And if they're really good at their operating leverage, how much their margins can lead for that growth to come down to the bottom line. That is the story of technology. Insane growth and then efficient operating leverage to bring that growth to the bottom line, which reflects on your earnings, on your net income, and then you ultimately get a PE that's based on those earnings per share. And I don't know if we've even seen the last of what Robinhood has to introduce for the rest of the year, which could obviously be very good for their overall operating margins as well. What's the downside for Hood to sell and take profits? I mean, look, I could see this thing going back to 65. I do think that would be pretty aggressive, but the question is, what's the trigger for the downside? Not even what I think the wrong question is, what's the price target that it could fall if there's a downside? Because, you know, everything could fall 10, 15, 20%. But what would cause that downside? And I really don't know. Like, I would love to hear in the chat, what causes S&P 606 right there, up about 1%? What causes the pain that gets Robinhood to 60 or 55 or even 70 at this point? You can't tell me it's the labor market. You can't tell me it's inflation. You can't tell me it's rates because we're probably going to get at least 2 cuts this year. I mean, we've already had the black swan with tariffs. You can't tell me it's Middle East if this ceasefire holds up. Like, Recession has to happen because of the labor market, and I'm just not seeing the data. We'll get initial jobless claims on Thursday for why there's so many losses of jobs that would, lead to some type of recession. I'm not saying recession can happen. I'm just saying the data's not there yet. Bitcoin could crash, but again, I feel like Bitcoin is so institutionalized. What is the crash? 70K, 80K? Which I think that dip would easily get bought. There's too much money in Bitcoin now. Too many big players that are keeping it propped up. Yeah, okay. Obviously, if Robinhood removes the buy button again, does something themselves, that could hurt them. But barring that, more high-tech brokers going public. Dude, but I'm not worried. Is anyone worried about eToro or Webull? I don't lose any sleep about these guys. I've looked at their S1s. I looked at their earnings. They're not, there's nothing to be excited about. And I don't think Hood's stopping their growth because of eToro or Webull, So that one to me is not the biggest bear case here. Granted, more competition is always something that could hurt their margins, but I just think they're developing a moat that keeps people excited. Dude, who's giving you 1% to leave Schwab and Fidelity to go to Robinhood? No one, bro. If you got $1 million, you get an extra 10,000 to go to Hood for a better user interface, better experience, better customer. Well, not better customer support yet, but we did get some piece of news yesterday. They are rolling out Robinhood Concierge. So this guy on Twitter got access to it. This is when, I don't know how much money you need to have on the platform, but they're rolling it out to probably the more high net worth individuals. You get a introductory video from Vlad, and then you get all these text messaging, personal representative perks. Now, I know Schwab and Fidelity, way better at customer service for everybody, but Robin is just not that big, which is why they can't scale it as well. But the customer service is getting better. And the better it gets, the more chances you have to lure over the bigger clients. Where is SoFi? Are we getting 16 on SoFi? Are we going to get it? SoFi options are up 10% today. I'm up 428% now, all time on these options. Resistance at 16 is 97,000 shares. Matt, thanks for the $5 super chat. NASDAQ is 0.1% away from all-time highs. I believe you are right on that. Yeah, wow, the NASDAQ's up 1.5. All-time high on the NASDAQ is 540. We're at 539. Dude, ceasefire. Bullish. Markets are bullish today. ABCL up 9%. Nebius up 8%. Amit, do you think Robinhood can get to $1 trillion in the next 10 years? I think $1 trillion is going to be hard just because all the other financial institutions have not hit that. I'm thinking Hood's more like 700 billion, JP Morgan type market cap. Granted, Hood is growing way faster than JP Morgan. JP Morgan does have more assets. But if Hood can keep up the growth for the next 10 years, could I see $1 trillion? Yeah, I could. It's just they're going to have to consistently grow 40, 50%, or at least 35%. And I don't know if that's possible, bro. I'm hoping that's possible, but in year 5, are they really growing 35% every year? It's just going to be a lot to ask. Now, granted, if there's any financial tech company that could do it, I feel like it's Hood. I just feel like every year they're going to come out with at least 5 to 7 new products that should tap into massive markets. They haven't even really explored wealth advisory. They acquired Trade PMR for $40 billion, or they paid $300 million. They brought $40 billion in assets. They haven't even fully started monetizing all the wealth management products they could roll out. Insurance, loans. There's all these different things they can get. These are big, big industries. And if they can keep up the growth with that, not to mention all the crypto stuff they're doing, which is their highest margin product. I think, could I see Robinhood going to $1 trillion? Yes, because it's a tech company, and tech companies are the ones that get to $1 trillion, and you need to have phenomenal leadership, phenomenal management, phenomenal execution, and growth to get there, and the operating margins, which Robinhood has a rule of 101 in terms of rule of 40s. They just have to keep that consistent over the next decade. If they can, I definitely think there's a shot. We need to talk about Amazon a bit. There are so many fundamental tailwinds and technicals are ripe for a breakout. Look, I like Amazon. I've liked it all year. 167 during the tariffs was absolutely a gift. I would not be surprised if this one breaks through. Amazon, I think most of you would agree you'd buy Amazon over Google for the next decade, right? It's kind of a no-brainer, right? I don't know anyone who's picking Google over Amazon over the next decade. Because even if you tell me Google's cheap, if we're talking about a decade, it's Amazon, bro. The risks that Google has that Amazon doesn't have are substantial. So, yeah, I like it. The only problem is Bezos is ready to sell a couple billion. And so if you get any momentum, 220, 230, Bezos is going to take his profits. He's shown us time and time again that he's, willing to pull the trigger there. But once those sales are done and we get some rate cuts, I think that could help. The other thing is Amazon's got a beat on AWS. Last time they missed by 0.6. I know it's so stupid to say they missed by 0.6%, but in this economy where AI is hyped up as much as it is, you just can't miss on these cloud numbers. So going into Q2, if they can just make sure to not miss just for the street's sake, that could also be very important for Amazon. $15.92 on SoFi, 8 cents away from 16. 8 cents away from 16. Hood does not have a bank charter. They do not have a bank charter. I think SoFi student loan platform will grow substantially. Yeah, I think it will. I think the loan platform will do fine. Again, my thing here is I just don't think the loan platform is a narrative that people care about. So yes, the loan platform itself should make SoFi a $30 stock right now. That's growing like 40 or 50%, $600 million TTM revenue. It's a great product. No risk to the balance sheet. It makes a lot of sense. It's just not something that people get excited about when they think of SoFi Technologies and then they hear a loan platform. And I know people hate hearing that, but it's the truth. What people wanted was the AWS of fintech that has not been delivered. And if Noto can turn things around in 2026, I think that also is a big boost to the stock. Granted, I still think the stock is undervalued without the tech growth, but the loan platform is a great product. And eventually when rates come down, hopefully that reaccelerates SoFi as well. Also, SoFi should be getting crypto and options by the end of the year, or by the end of the summer, if I'm not wrong. And that should be a tailwind as well. If people can, if they can get even a couple $1 million a quarter of people buying Bitcoin, which I'm sure there will be some people that buy crypto and SoFi. That would not be too bad. Intel right here, is that up 5%? Intel's pumping 5.9% right now. Is Powell still talking? Let's see. Is Powell still going at it? He probably is. I don't think we're going to get anything new from it, though. Yeah, he's still going.
We don't have opinions.
Gentlemen's time has expired, and the gentle ladies.
Thank you, and thank you, Sam.
She bring her baby? She brought her baby?
And because we are increasing our deficit. So with this economic uncertainty, where we were going, we were on the way down for reducing our rates, and now we have to hold steady to address the instability. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, could you just briefly?
Oh, is she using her baby as a prop? I just I don't want to assume the worst, but is she using her baby as a prop here? Because does it bring your child to work day? What's going on?
Restate your question there. I apologize.
Yes, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, J Powell doesn't know what your question is because he was staring at a baby at a testimony.
This is the best I can with with Sam here. That with our having to address inflation, as we've started to see it, you were able to decrease the rates. We were starting to go down a little bit. We were seeing that our economy was finally in a solid place. Prices were starting to go down. And now with the economic uncertainty, we're starting to see that you had to hold steady, whereas everyone was projecting before this administration came in with these changes that it was going to continue to go down. Can you talk about why you have had to choose to hold steady on the interest rates?
So we just, we stick to what we're assigned to do, which is maximum employment and price stability. We don't have opinions on fiscal policy or trade policy or immigration policy or any one of another or regulation policy, other than we have our regulatory responsibilities. And so we take what comes as it comes. And, elected politicians do what they do, and we don't criticize that. We don't have opinions.
Gentlemen's time has expired, and the gentle ladies.
Thank you, and thank you, Sam.
Chair now recognizes.
Dude, I think Powell is what the hell is going on, bro? What is happening here? I don't have any issue with her having a baby. I'm just confused. Why is the baby there? it's a baby. It should be a daycare, right? Like it's like imagine the baby started crying during the congressional hearing. Like that would not be not be easy for J Powell to answer questions if you have a baby crying. Now, if she brought it as a prop, that's just weirder. But the baby could be sick. Yeah, that's fair. I guess daycare is expensive. Oh, these Congress people make plenty of money, bro. They can afford daycare. But dude, the average Congressperson is pulling in like 170K. They're making money, bro. Do not feel bad about our Congress representatives. They are getting paid very well. Our tax dollars are giving AOC plenty of money for her to write letters to Palantir about contracts that she could Google in 2 seconds. So I don't think it's a question of her not having the money. I've never seen that before. I've never seen that. One insider trade pays for the daycare. That's facts. That is facts. Yeah, dude, Congress people are not making 50K a year, 30K a year. You guys know this, right? Average Congress representatives are pulling in above 150. And so they are, and they have healthcare benefits, all this stuff. Yeah, right here, 174. Annual salary for most representatives in U.S. Congress, including both senators and representatives, 170. Dude, 174 is an amazing level of income, even in DC. Like, I get it. DC is expensive. I understand. But 174, that's not poverty. And that was raised, by the way. I think a year and a half ago it was like 165. So they recently just got a raise. The Speaker of the House gets 223. And then the Senate majority and minority leaders get 193. So, I mean, come on, bro. We're not going to feel bad about Congress people making money. Like, they have plenty of money. So, and they get to front run all of our trades. So 8130. That's another reason I'm buying UNH, bro. All these guys are buying UNH. Like, all right. You guys are the ones that come up with Medicare policies. So we're gonna see. Pound right here, 141, and hoodie 8128. Is there anything to sell puts on today? Honestly, the only thing I see is HIMS, because HIMS is still getting hit pretty badly. Grab, unfortunately, doesn't have good options premiums. I mean, you can sell some calls against them a month out, but you can't really get premiums on the puts as well. So unfortunately, Grab doesn't have the most for that. Meta right here, 709. And then Tesla right here, 342. Hey, dude, 174 is not poverty. Can we stop with that? 174K is not poverty. Like, come on, bro. Like, this is ridiculous. I don't care if it's DC or California. 174,000 is a lot of money for any American. So I wouldn't deny that. And if you're saying she doesn't do daycare, so does that mean she brings the baby to work every day while she's in Congress? Is that what we're doing? Like, I mean, I guess that's fine if that's allowed, but like, are you even allowed to do that when you're in high level sensitive meetings in Congress testimonies? You're allowed to have the baby. Like, I don't even know if that's, I've never seen that happen, bro. I've never seen a congresswoman have a baby with them the entire day in work. And I'm pretty sure there would be ways to use the resources in working in the government to make sure that there's proper daycare. It's not allowed. Yeah, at almost every other job, that's not allowed, dude. If you're a teacher, you can't bring your baby, and teachers are not getting paid $174,000. You can't have your baby just sit in the corner while you're teaching a class. So my initial gut reaction is she's using that as a prop, or she's using that to send a message. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I've never seen that happen before. Have a Congress representative ask the Federal Reserve questions with a baby. And J Powell's looking at the baby like, is that I think even J Powell's like, can you repeat the question? J Powell's like, what? I've never seen this before. And so that part was, I don't know, just a bit confusing to me. Next, thanks for the 5 super chat question. What kind of percentage returns are you seeing from selling covered calls? I try to aim for about 2.5 to 3% a month. You can get a lot more aggressive and go for 4.5 to 5%, but 2.5 to 3 is what I like to have. And even 3 to me is 3 is a really good return per month. That's 36% a year. So now here's the thing about covered calls. If you have a lot of shares, you don't have to go like Elaine, right? Elaine in the chat. She has 60,000 Palantir shares. She doesn't have to write a covered call at 145. She can go to 160 and still make a ton of money because she can sell thousands of contracts, right? So from that perspective, the amount of shares you have, I think, creates the buffer to not have an aggressive strike. But if you only have 100 shares and you're really trying to get some premium, you can sell one contract, then you might be more aggressive. So to me, I think 2.5 to 3% is a sweet spot, 2% more conservative, 3% mildly aggressive, 4 to 5% you're being very aggressive. And then you also have to ask, do you care about the shares? Like I've sold covered calls on shares before that I don't care. Like I had Nubank, I think earlier in the year. I think I bought it like 11.50. I sold covered calls at 12. Nubank right here at 13.30. I just didn't care about it. I just used it for premium and then I moved on. So I let those shares get called away. So that was really aggressive. I could have, increased my strike, but I just wanted the premium. That's all I wanted. But on other names like a Palantir Hood, I don't want those shares to get called away. So, I would want to keep them. Oklo, where's Oklo? Oklo right here, up 8%. That was down about 5% yesterday. Elaine said, I just sold 100 contracts at the 146 expiry this Friday. Okay, so let's calculate how much Elaine made. So 100 contracts is 10,000 shares because you have 100 shares per contract. So at 146, if you just sold it for Friday, that's 92 cents. Let's say she got it at 90 cents, that contract's up 13% of the day, 13.4. So that's 100 times 92. That's $9,200 in a week for Palantir to not get to 146, which would be a couple bucks above all-time highs. I mean, dude, that's not too bad, right? 10,000 shares yielding you $9,200 in a week. You got it at $1. Oh, so she got 10,000. She got it at 100 per contract, $1 per share. Now, granted, the hard part here is having the 10,000 shares to write these covered calls on, right? That's the part where you gotta increase your income, be patient, accumulate when no one likes it. Elaine bought these shares at $10 when no one cared about Palantir. So that's the hard part. But once you get those shares, loaning them out into the market, there's risks and there's nuances to it, but it is a very lucrative business that one can deploy. And if the worst case is Elaine has to sell 10,000 shares at 146 and her average is 10, and that's just not the worst case in the world. And maybe Palantir goes to 200 by the end of the year and she missed out on the opportunity cost. I get it. But at the end of the day, you're never going to be perfect on the buy or sell. No one will ever be perfect on getting the exact bottom or exact top. So if the worst case outside of rolling it, which I think is very manageable if you're at all-time highs, is you make a crap ton of money selling it at 146. Like that's just not, I don't see that as a loss. Some of the people that are against covered calls, like I always wonder, like what is their response to that? And the response is, oh, opportunity cost. It's like, okay, but I could have bought Nvidia in 2003. Where my opportunity cost in the past 20 years is millions of dollars because I didn't buy Nvidia in 2003. What is the response to that? It's like, well, I was a kid in 2000. Yeah. Yeah. Things are like, there's nuances to this. Like I could have bought more Palantir at $10. There's a big opportunity cost for me not buying more Palantir. Like there's opportunity cost is a bullshit argument. That's what it is. You use opportunity cost. You can make an infinite level of hypotheticals to justify the opportunity cost. So to me, I've never really saw that argument that well. On stock traps, you want to keep like Palantir, stick to 1 to 1.5% on covered calls, very safe, and you still make 12 to 18% on top of any other gains from stock going up. Yeah, I agree. 100%. I agree with that. What price do you think is worth to start selling Grab covered calls? Well, Grab doesn't have any premiums, so I mean, I would say $5 is a decent strike, but could this thing jump over 5 again? Yeah, because I mean it's been at 5 all year. It took a nasty dip over the past couple weeks, so those $5 calls could get called away. But like if we go to July 25th, the $5 cover call is paying 15 cents. I mean, that's just not a lot of premium, dude. So why would you even risk it at that point, right? So that's when there's just not enough juice in Grab. The retail's doesn't care enough. Grab has to get over $6, I think, for retail to care. Once it gets over $6 and it sustains over 6, you're going to get a lot of people that are like, oh, wow, the super app of Southeast Asia. This is so interesting. Look at their growth. Yeah, like all the bull arguments are going to be highlighted once the stock moves. But the stock has to move to get there. And then the premiums are going to be juiced up as well. Soundhound, almost 10% of the day. That one doing well. 965. Carnival Cruise, is that one holding on? Up 8%. That one doing great. Chris is loving that. And you got VG, that's recovering a little bit. That's up about 1% as well. On opportunity cost, that's what the compensation is for. Yeah, I agree. I agree as well. All right. Do we have any other headlines? Is that pretty much it for the day? Dude, how is it 12 p.m., bro? The past couple of weeks have been just like 3 hours and 14 minutes, dude. Just goes by. I thought it was like 10:30 right now. A couple quotes from Powell. He said the Fed cannot legally buy crypto and do not seek that authority. He also said, asked if treasuries are a safe haven, says yes, the dollar is always going to be the reserve currency anyway for a long time. Okay, so Powell is pretty bullish. Dumb Money's going live in 30 minutes. That'll be a fun one. I love Dumb Money. I think their episode today is talking about Tesla versus Nvidia. So that'll be a fun one. I'll probably be listening to them on that one. What if Robinhood says we're going to distribute health insurance? I think they could. All they need to do is get a referral and distribute it to their members. Elaine says, I say load up on your high conviction stock so you can sell covered calls like I do in your retirement. Dude, it really is a pretty decent income play for retirement. Like in retirement, everyone's asking like, hey, what's the income strategy, right? Outside of Social Security and your pension. And a lot of people talk about dividend stocks, which is fair, but buying Coca-Cola for a 3% dividend is cool. It's really cool if you bought it 20 years ago. It's not that cool if you're buying it at $70 today. Buying Nvidia at 147, which objectively I think is still cheap, and then selling covered calls against that is in my opinion, riskier way to make income in retirement, but it definitely, the risk reward feels a bit more adjusted to the upside versus just holding on to Coca-Cola, right? And that doesn't mean you should, go balls deep with your entire retirement savings into selling options. But the point is, if it's about an extra $1,000, extra $2,000 a month, and when you get to that age, you tend to have a couple $100,000, couple million saved up. It's not crazy to use a little bit of that to sell some options. Yeah, there was a Bank of America SoFi price target at 13 today. The Bank of America dude just hates SoFi. They hate HIMS as well. I'm so happy we have Mariana for Palantir, and we have Craig for Robinhood. I think Craig's price target is like 80, and Mariana is at 150 for Palantir. Craig for 80 for Hood. But HIMS and SoFi, they just like, Bank of America does not like them. They're not fans of those two names. Let's pull up the ETFs again. Let's see how those are doing right now. AMD should be helping me. Coinbase really should be helping Tanner today. And then Matt is in the lead. Matt's up 10%. I'm up 2%. Steve's down. Tanner's up 5%. Chris is break even. So it's Matt, Tanner, Amit, Chris, Steve. The only reason Steve's getting hit is because of HIMS right now. But everything else is not too bad. I do know what a Labubu is, okay? I have been seeing this whole Labubu revolution over the past couple of weeks. It's a Hong Kong collectible toy. I saw a little bit of Dumb Money's podcast on it last week. Chris Camillo is investing in Labubus through some some Hong Kong exchange. He's like converting dollars to Hong Kong dollars to buy the company that makes them or whatever. I don't know how they went viral though. Was it like TikTok or something? What was it? Was it a trend that made them viral? But I've seen multiple videos on these things. And people are paying up for them. My wife and daughter have Labubus. Yeah, it's like Pop Mart. That's the company, Pop Mart. Dude, $100 for these things. What's the average price on a Labubu? And why are people buying? Are people buying them because there's like a prize or something you can get? Is there like some gamification they've done with the process of buying them? Wow, out of stock. All of these out of stock. Look at this. Out of stock, out of stock, out of stock. Dude, how many people are buying Labubus? Why are people buying them? I don't know why, but now I know why Chris Camillo wants to invest in the holding company. He just thinks this is a major social arb play that's going on right now. It's just hype. I mean, it's definitely hype, but I'm kind of wondering why it's getting this much hype. All right, well, Labubu's getting some momentum. Powell's still talking. Let's see what he's saying right here, and then we'll probably end it off in a little bit.
that guidance is something we're looking at pulling back.
When you say the risk for lending based on political climate change, is that correct?
Well, the idea was that, the changing climate could, I'm not defending this. I'm telling you what the idea was. The idea was, climate change would cause certain kinds of assets to lose value, and that if banks are lending to in those areas or to those industries, then they should at least be able to measure. It didn't ban anybody from doing anything. It wasn't prescriptive. At the same time, you have the feeling that the side effect of it would be to discourage lending, and we don't want that to be the case. So that's why we're looking at it.
Well, it does sound like that is policy that is based on political agenda. And when it comes to banking, it should not be based on political agenda, but instead on facts such as credit, facts as good monetary policy. So I would have to disagree with you on the fact that the Federal Reserve stayed outside of political agendas. When it comes to climate change, that is a political agenda, and I would have to disagree with you on that. Thank you. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from California. Mr. Sherman is also ranking member of the Capital Markets Subcommittee for 5 minutes.
We don't notice good bank regulation. Things just go smoothly. But in 2023, we saw the effects of...
All right, that's it. I'll try to get you guys the highlights later. I don't think we're getting anything that new from what Powell is saying here. All right, folks, that is it. AMD 136 hoodie, incredible journey. Very, very blessed to be on it. Very, very grateful to be a messenger on this journey that a lot of you guys use as a resource to learn more about the company and keep up to date with their progress. Congrats to anyone who's in it. This is one of those names that has definitely changed my life. I unlike Palantir, I really made sure my mom, my sister, and my dad loaded up on this thing in the 30s and 40s. And for Palantir, as bullish as I was, I didn't have the confidence to, force my parents and my sister to really invest in it. But I did not make that same mistake with Hood. So there you go. Robinhood, $80. Let's see if we can get that $80 close. If we can get it, that would be incredible. And even if we don't, the fact that we broke through just means the momentum's there. So even if we close at 78, 77, I wouldn't be too worried. Like, we're going to get back above here pretty easily. That crypto event's going to be bonkers. Vlad's going to blow everyone's socks off in terms of the products they're announcing. You even saw his attitude on CNBC today. He came in with the attitude of, I'm a multi-$100 billion CEO, like I am that guy. I'm him, is what I got from him, with the level of work ethic that justifies the execution. So pretty incredible stuff. Robinhood, 80.60. We will be back. Technical Tuesday will be today. It's going to be closed a little early. We're going to have to close around 6:30 because I have to go somewhere with my mom. But so it won't be until 7:30. So it'll still be a long show, but we're going to be ending an hour early. And we will try to get through all these technicals as well today. Grab right here, up 4%, not too bad, 475. Reddit up 4%, AMD up 5, Nvidia trying to get to 147, Palantir 141, and then Tessie down about 1.3% after being up 10% yesterday, so not too bad. S&P 605 up 1% on the day. There you go. All right, word of the day. Word of the day. What do we got? What do we have on the word of the day? What's the word of the day? Book. Okay. How much you guys want to bet when I freaking press this volume button, it's going to say book? If it says book over book, I'm going to be so upset. It looks like a book. Tell me this doesn't look like a book. B-U-K-H. It looks like a book. If this freaking dictionary.com AI voice says book, I'm going to be so mad, because this looks like no one would look at it and say this is book. No one. And if anyone says that, you're all lying. You would say book. All right, here we go.
Book.
See, this is not a me thing. This is the world. This is the world. This is not me.
Like, I refuse to buy into the propaganda by how people conceptualize how words should be said. This obviously looks like book. Obviously. Does not, if it's a book, you put 2 O's, not a U and a K and a H. No one in their right mind would think this is a book. No, it's a book. It's a freaking book.
Book.
To brag. After accepting the job offer, she took to social media to book about this next chapter in her career. That doesn't even sound right, bro. They couldn't resist booking about their kid's skill on the violin. Come on, bro. If you tell me booking, okay, that makes more sense. You know? They couldn't resist booking about their kid's skill on the violin. That, like, it sounds kind of weird, but at least the word isn't booking. Like booking. Like when I think of booking, I think of so many different things. Like I'm booking my profits on a stock. Like, right? You're selling that. Like that has nothing to do with bragging. This is ridiculous. This is book. It's not book. This is book. So there you go. Amid booking his pronunciation skills. Dude, I'm not saying booking. If I say this again, I'm saying book. Nonsense. Book. It's all propaganda, bro. It's all freaking propaganda. It is book. All right, cool. That's it. I'm out of here. By the way, if anyone's on LinkedIn, you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I rebuilt my or I'm revamping my LinkedIn. And I found this yesterday. I showed this on the market close, but your boy's been bullish on Hood for a long time. This is from 5 years ago. I was posting about Robinhood. I was like, I'm at the doctor's office on my phone with the same opportunity to trade stocks that people on Wall Street have at 9:30. This app has literally democratized everything. I didn't even know I would ever invest in Robinhood stock. But yeah, so if you are on LinkedIn, I am trying to rebuild my presence there. And I don't even know what I'm going to talk about on LinkedIn because I don't really know if you can talk about stocks. Like, I don't know if people care about that on LinkedIn. It's already been kind of cringe. See, like just scrolling through the feed, it's like, it's just random stuff. But I don't know. Probably we'll post about Palantir. There's actually a decent amount of Palantir employees that post on LinkedIn. So if you care about Palantir content, that'll be on LinkedIn and maybe some Robinhood content as well there. All right, cool. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. We'll be back for Technical Tuesday on Thursday. Not on Thursday, on Tuesday. We'll be back on Thursday, Wednesday as normal, as always. And if we get this hoodie, $80 close would be incredible by the end of the day. But we'll be back on the close to see if that plays out. Post about master debating. Yes, I need to flex. I need to book about the debate skills on LinkedIn. That's what everyone does on LinkedIn. Everyone just brags on LinkedIn about something that like LinkedIn is all about me. It's all about how can I say that I got this new job or that I'm this AI career coach. I can help you get like it's all this random shit on LinkedIn. But we'll see. We'll see if we can try to engage on the platform. All right, cool. That's it. Thank you, everybody. I'll be back on the market close, and let's see if Hoodie can get that $80 close. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.